What will happen on the east coast of Florida is you will have the possibility for storm surge there. May not be 10, 15 feet like we could get on the west coast, but it's going to kind of be the opposite. If you're on the southern part of the storm, a lot of the storm is going to push the water away from the east coast. But if you're on the northern side of the storm, the counterclockwise, it's going to bring surge in. So places like Brevard, Volusia, Flagler, St. John's, you're likely to see surge. You're likely to see, and we've had issues on the coast there anyways with erosion and whatnot. So just understand that is going to be something that could happen. It's not just about where it makes landfall. It's going to barrel across the state of Florida. It's going to exit on the east coast of Florida, and that also can produce some storm surge. So just make sure if you're on the east coast of Florida that you understand this is not just a west coast event. The major effects for surge will be on the west, but there is going to be impacts far inland and on the other coast in the state of Florida. The fuel situation, I know when the initial evacuations went out on Monday and then even on Sunday when people were anticipating massive run on gas, people were crowding the stations. You had long lines. A lot of the gas stations ran out of fuel. We have not run out of fuel overall. When those stations go through it much quicker than normal, they don't have the same delivery schedules that could keep up, so they got to flex. So what we've done is, one, we've got 1.6 million gallons of diesel on hand just for the state of Florida and 1.1 million gallons of gasoline for the state of Florida. So that's just us. They're still bringing fuel out of the ports. The ships are not coming in, but the dockside operations have been going. Now, I'd imagine Manatee, Tampa, probably not at this point, just given what's happening. East Coast, that's likely dockside going to slow down too as the storm approaches. But we have to try to overcome had Florida Highway Patrol facilitate 106 long-distance fuel tanker escorts. So they got the sirens, they're bringing those gas into the gas stations, and they've done almost 1 million gallons of gas with that. So I appreciate what they're able to do for that. We may have interruption in fuel delivery into Port Manatee, into Port of Tampa, depending on the damage from Milton. And we will work on contingencies to make sure we're able to have a supply of fuel. But people should just understand, we've got a lot of fuel on hand from the state. There is a lot of fuel still left at the ports that will be re-engaged from dockside once the storm passes on the west coast. But we could potentially have some of these ports that may not be able to open right away. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. We've been talking about the debris. That mission was an emergency mission to help local communities who suffered a lot of debris and were not getting the debris moved quick enough. Places like the Barrier Islands in Pinellas County, Barrier Islands in Manatee, and even parts of Sarasota Barrier Islands, they worked through the night.
Hearing from Governor DeSantis on the latest on the storm and getting ready for it and in the anticipation of what's going to happen once it's done. It's impressive. 50,000 linemen pre-staged to get to work as soon as the storm passes to restore power.
Yeah, and we know that FEMA is already in place too, so the pre-staging is already well underway. We mentioned gas, and that's been an important thing. We heard from Mayor Jane Castor earlier this morning that gas will not be a problem, and we've just heard that reaffirmed from the governor.
Yeah, your gas station may not have gas right now, but they are getting gas to that station. It's being escorted in, so just hang on, it's coming.
And a warning about the track of this too, and you'll hear Jim and Dave talk about this a lot, but we're looking at landfall roughly in Bradenton or Sarasota, but it's going to exit on the East Coast. So there's an East Coast warning for this too, exiting Brevard County, which is the Space Coast, where NASA is. So
I've got people in Miami who went to Miami to get away from it, and businesses are closing over there in anticipation of this. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. We'll take a break. Be back.
Hey, I'm Heather Sullivan with Sullivan Smart Sense. Okay, we all know you can save money at the grocery store buying generic or store brands. But did you know you could save an average of 40%? CNET compared prices on 20 items and cut the bill from $125 to $75. And that's savings that can add up.
If you are relying on Amazon reviews to help you decide on a purchase, heads up. According to FakeSpot, the following categories are the most likely to have bogus or biased feedback: watches, Christmas decor, watch bands, sweaters, and pullovers. But the top spot for fake reviews? Slippers. FakeSpot says 71% on Amazon have fake reviews, with thousands of products and barely any name brands. I'm Steve Noviello. That's my 2 cents. Spend it wisely. To get the most out of your cell phone battery, consider shallow charging. Instead of draining your battery to zero, recharge at 50%. When you charge it up, stop at about 90%. Once a month, you should run it down to 5% and recharge so it can recalibrate its self-assessment. When charging is done, remove your phone from the charger. Electronics will age faster if they're left plugged in when fully charged. I'm Steve Noviello. That's my 2 cents. Spend it wisely.
Hey, it's Dr. Mike. Listen, new research finds that if you're older, over 65, if you exercise, you're going to improve your memory. Now, it actually helps with a part of the brain called the hippocampus. If you exercise, you will improve your memory and reduce your risk of developing dementia. I'm Dr. Mike Sirigliano with the Fox Medical Team.
Let's get into it because we have tornado warnings. We have a lot of very heavy rain. The tropical storm force winds are coming in, and we're about 8 to 10 hours from landfall.
Yeah.
Lots to talk about.
I was just looking, some of the winds, St. Petersburg right now gusting up to about 51 miles an hour. That's inside of some of these bands. But right now, the most current threat is yet more tornado warnings. This one just issued just moments ago extends up into DeSoto County. This goes until 2 o'clock. And these same cells, we've been talking about this one, worked its way. It was a confirmed tornado that moved North Fort Myers up through Charlotte County. And right now, you're seeing that rotation in this, but this is basically working its way right, it looks like just to the east of 17, Fort Ogden, heading right up towards Arcadia. This is moving to the north at 25 miles an hour. So if you're in Arcadia, really at this point, if you're anywhere in DeSoto County, you want to go ahead and you want to take cover. You want to go into that safe location. Then you look over into Highlands County, southeastern Polk County. And again, those same two rotations. And just look at this, is a look at the rotation track with this. To go out a little bit wider, you can actually see the lines where these have basically worked their way all the way to the north. You see these lines. You see this other one over towards Lake Okeechobee. So you're seeing that very strong, very definite rotation, and then basically just plowing right on towards the north. So at times you may actually have a tornado on the ground. At times it may lift, but it can very quickly come back down to the ground. That's why we're seeing these warnings just continue to get extended further and further to the north. So the locations that we continue to watch down into DeSoto County, but if you're into Hardy County, if you're into southeastern Polk County, these are working their way right in your direction. In fact, you look into Polk County, and this one, it is just about ready to cross the line. So not a whole lot of population out here, but you do have, going a little bit further to the north, you have State Road 60, you have Indian Lakes Estates, you have Lakeshore, and you can see as the radar updates, continuing to see these work their way now into Polk County, and these are just going to continue to race on towards the north, and somewhere between about 25 to 30 miles an hour. We now have a new tornado warning. This is for Hardy, Highlands, and Polk County, and this goes until 1:45, and that is this one right here. And so that includes Sebring, that includes Avon Park, and then works its way up just to the south of Frostproof. So you see all the areas inside of this new box, which there's so many of these on here. I'm just going to go ahead and draw on here which one is the new box compared to which one is an existing box. So that one there, flashing red, is the new tornado warning. That one goes until 1:45, which includes Hardy County, Highlands County, Polk County, working its way to the northwest at 25 miles an hour. So this is a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located very close to Sebring right now. So no confirmation with this one at this point. But again, with all of these, at this point, you treat each and every one of these as if it's a confirmed tornado, because you just want to get into that safe location. You don't want to wait to hear that, yes, it has been confirmed. That's just, at this point, that is somewhat semantics with this.
Kind of at the point where I'm just going to tell everybody that's east of Highway 17 in Polk County and Hardy County, just stay inside. Get into your interior room. These things are popping up pretty quickly. So from Lake Wales to Frostproof down 27, going in, Jim mentioned 60. Now 60 goes over toward Yeehaw Junction, and that whole region. I need everybody to be, well, obviously you're inside, but inside that interior room, because we've had numerous reports of damage from some of these tornadoes. We've actually seen video of some of these along the East Coast, and these have been pretty hefty and pretty strong, at least from what we've seen and what the Weather Service has been telling us.
So just with his latest warning, Frostproof in about 47 minutes. Lemon Grove, 27 minutes. Avon Park Lakes, 29 minutes. Highland Lakes, 29 minutes. These are the areas that have to. You basically you want to go in that safe spot in your house.
And what's interesting is typically when we get tornado warnings around here, they're not typically this long. But these are long duration. These have been long sitting on the ground. Jim showed you all of that rotation. So they've been going and going and going, and maybe they spin back up, but then they've been spinning back down again. So this is that whole, it's well inland, folks, but you see that rotation tracker, and you can almost follow this rotation all the way from South Florida northeast. And so it stands to reason it's not going to stop right there. It's going to go right through Polk County as well. And that's why we're saying, hey, east of Highway 17 into Polk County, and especially east of 27, get into that interior room, turn the volume up, and we'll let you know. But these storms have meant business inland so far this morning.
Yeah, just amazing to see all these tracks. These are what we call long track tornadoes. Yeah. Now, they aren't necessarily on the ground the entire time, but you're seeing the indication of that rotation for just such long periods of time. Just to kind of give you an idea here, this here going for nearly 60 miles with the track of this, and at least a period of time this was on the ground for sure, because it was a confirmed tornado at points along the way. Now it does look like they're starting to cancel some of these into Highlands County here. We'll kind of wait and see.
That would be good, but
that would be probably more than likely. We're looking at this one right here. But we are still, we'll go ahead and just kind of look at the current rotation here, and you still have two areas that you're definitely really looking at. First one, now working its way into Polk County, and then we have another one which looks like it is to the south and west of Sebring right now.
You mentioned something earlier, and that is, going back to the Arcadia area and that tornado warning as well, that is covered in rain. And a lot of these tornadoes are going to be shrouded in rain. And that's an issue because you can't see anything. So we don't want people, and I know the first reaction is to head outside, let me see if I can't find, no. Look at all of that rain, you're not gonna see anything. And even a lot of these rotations now into Highlands County, there's rain around now. So you're getting into that point, Jim, where these are going to be rain wrapped as well as, and it makes it much more difficult to kind of see where they are.
And we're seeing in these areas where we have this rain, we're seeing these winds easily gusting well over tropical storm force right now. We're seeing these winds gusting 40, 50 miles an hour inside of these. So this is just absolutely way too dangerous to be outside. You're not going to see anything, and this is going to start to cause some damage because you start getting these winds constantly gusting 40, 45 miles an hour. This starts to cause damage to areas, and then you mix a tornado into the mix there, and I'm sure we're seeing some damage to homes, to trees.
It's amazing to me how far north of Lake Okeechobee you have confirmed tornadoes, and you've got a major hurricane 135 miles southwest of Sarasota.
Yeah.
That'll give you an idea of sort of the strength of all of this, producing a tornado that far away. Looks like we got another one.
Yeah, it looks like I'm going to guess it's right here. It looks like we've got
southeastern Polk County.
Yep, there you go, Lake Wales. Over towards Frostproof, there you see it.
A thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado 10 miles northeast of Avon Park, moving north at 25 miles per hour. So locations impacted by this tornadic thunderstorm include Highland Park, Indian Lake Estates, Crooked Lake Park, Waverly, Lake Wales Municipal Airport, Babson Park, Frostproof, and so on and so on from those particular. That's this storm here.
Yeah, and this is, yet again, same cell that we've been watching, basically rolled all the way through Highlands County, going back out wide, and just looking at that tracker, and you can see it's basically falling right along one of these track lines. You got these track lines of rotation. They work their way right up through these areas, and that's yet again following right on that. And so we go right back into that area, and you can see that rotation right there, just crossed into Polk County, and this is the area that we're watching. This is moving to the north at 25 miles an hour. So we'll go ahead and let's draw a track on there.
Let's track that. Let's see when it's going to get over Highway 60. Not that there's a lot of people out there on Highway 60, but Indian Lake Estates in about 25 minutes or so for you. This tornadic storm, Alcoma, Lakeshore, Babson Park. So right around that Highway 60 area, Jim, you're looking at about a little over 30 minutes for this to work.
Yeah, there you see Alcoma, 39 minutes. So you've got time. You've got time to take cover in any of these areas. But at times, this has been a confirmed tornado on the ground. Still seeing a sign here that we may have a tornado on the ground. If we don't, we certainly have enough rotation in here. At any moment, we could have a tornado on the ground. So let's kind of move this over a little bit.
Let's try to get ahead of this.
Yeah.
Let's go to northeast. Let's go to northern Polk County because I want to look at Haines City, Davenport, over toward Champions Gate, back to maybe even the Auburndale area and Haines City. Right now, you don't have a tornado warning, but we're trying to get ahead of it because everybody else to the south of you has had one, so it stands to reason from Winter Haven to Haines City to Polk City, all the way up to that Four Corners area, including Davenport, and that's about going over I-4. This is where we potentially are going to have more rotation and perhaps tornado warnings moving forward. I'm just trying to keep ahead of it.
We've had this cell. It's just had such over 60 miles now that this has shown signs of rotation and at times a tornado on the ground. So where I have this white box, no, you're not under the tornado warning right now. But if we continue to see this rotation with this, these are areas that this is going to be moving to in about 45 minutes or so. So Dundee, Haines City, Davenport, up towards Champions Gate. We all know the Champions Gate area, just one of those exits along I-4. Everybody seems like in the world stops for gas right there. Over just to the east of Polk City. So along I-4, probably in about 60 minutes. So you're definitely, once you're up in this area, you've got a lot more population, especially over towards Auburndale, just to the east of Auburndale, and Winter Haven, Cypress Gardens as well.
Yeah, and I just want to point out to folks that are just tuning in right now, we have a lot of tornado warnings to your south, and we're just kind of letting you know, Haines City, Dundee, Winter Haven, Auburndale, and those spots, that all that rotation is coming your way. And while you don't have official warnings yet, you got to keep that in the back of your mind in the next 30 minutes or so and just get into that interior room once that warning does get issued. And we've got multiple ones. The purple ones that are blinking are actually confirmed tornadoes. So that's the difference between the blinking red and the blinking purple. They're both tornado warnings. The purple ones are confirmed.
So right now we've got three main areas that we're really focusing in on. This one, it looks like to the south and west of Sebring. You have another one which is now working its way to the south of Arcadia. Zoom in to this area here because you're seeing quite a bit of rotation in this. This looks like it's, say, east of Fort Ogden. Put a little distance on this here to give you an idea. Running 9-10 miles to the east of Fort Ogden. This is moving to the north. I think all of these are running to the north or the northwest about 25 to 30 miles an hour right now. Then we have another one as we go a little bit further out, and we'll work our way up towards Sebring. Here you see this area. This will work its way into the northwestern corner, or northeastern corner rather, of DeSoto County, and then also we have, or I'm sorry, Hardy County, and then we also have this other one which has now worked its way to the south and east of Frostproof. So this is in Polk County right now, and again, this one is also working its way on towards the north and the west right now at about 25 miles an hour. So we're going to continue to watch each one of these areas. Go out a little bit wider here, and I think we look at some of the rain. Again, we're seeing these very strong bands working their way along the coastline. The other thing that you notice earlier, we were looking at this eye. You can really still see a pretty definite eye. You're starting to see it's becoming a bit more eroded. Now, part of it is just, it's hard to see all the way through the eye wall just with the intensity of this, but we're also really starting to see this become more and more eroded away. Now, we're going to continue to watch that as we go through really the rest of the night and into the evening. The satellite imagery there showing more and more of that wind shear starting to become an issue for this. So that is going to continue to weaken the storm, but this is still an extremely strong storm. There you see that strong wind shear that we've been talking so much about. There's also some dry air that's worked its way into this. There's also a cold front working its way through this as well. Look at these winds. St. Petersburg currently gusting to 53. Clearwater currently gusting to 57 miles an hour. So right now, this is at 145 miles an hour. And as we head into tonight, nearing the coastline, you notice that track not moving a whole lot, but still, we're talking about the effects on that from the center into the right. That's where we're going to see the largest impacts with this as far as the storm surge, and then we have the rainfall with this, and basically everybody is going to be dealing with these hurricane force winds as we head through late this evening and through the overnight hours as well. Dave, I know you're standing by to talk a little bit more about some of these impacts as well, which are really, really concerning at this point.
One of the first things, Jim, that I've noticed from the 11 o'clock and how they try to change the track and give you all that is how much faster that this is moving. Earlier, I believe the 5 o'clock advisory had a landfall at 2 a.m. Now, at 8 p.m., it's sitting just off the coast. So it is moving quicker. So moving northeast now at about 17 miles per hour. At some point, it's going to stop the northeasterly movement and kind of slow down and move more east-northeast to take that path across the state. So at some point, you'll notice that the forward movement might slow down a little bit, and that's going to be your sign that it's likely turning more east-northeast rather than northeast. But yes, it is coming down. It is going to make landfall within that very narrow down cone. And looking ahead, I still feel that, of course, where it makes landfall in about 20 to 30 miles south, devastating storm surge. But north of the eye, there's going to be another problem, and that is going to be the rainfall. Look at this tonight. Look at the rain coming down. Notice the absence of rain over the southern part of this storm. The west and southwest side is being ripped apart, just being sheared, okay? So the rainfall is way up here on the northern side, and that's where 6 to 12 inches of rain with isolated amounts of 18 are possible in a stretch that goes from Tampa through Orlando to Daytona Beach. That whole I-4 corridor is going to be inundated with rain and some flooding, and this is why we've said, well, you get to be where you're going to be and you're not going anywhere. Now, by tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, it is starting to settle down. It is starting to move away, and then from there, we start the cleanup. But look at the rainfall accumulations. This yellow swath, well above 7 inches of rain, and that is Tampa north all the way across the state, and that's where we're going to start to have some of that flooding in this purple shaded area. So there are multiple concerns, Russell and Laura. There are multiple concerns. It's like, I'm going to give it back to you guys, and that is, of course, are tornadoes right now. For the next several hours, we've got to deal with those inland tornadoes. Then you've got the landfall and the extreme winds right around landfall with the storm surge to the south. And then these 6 to 12 inches of rain with isolated 18-inch amounts from Tampa northward. Each part of our viewing area has a different problem that they're going to have to deal with. It's all beginning to unfold with the worst of the weather, guys, from 6 p.m. to about, let's say, 6 a.m. in that 12-hour window, okay?
Good.
Okay. We want to mention, too, that we are now streaming on the radio, 102.5 The Bone, 101.5, and 97X, I believe.
Okay. Good.
Is that right? Yeah. All right, we'll move on now. Helene saturated the ground, and all it's going to take is just a little bit of rain to see some flooding.
Our Ariel Placencia is checking out some of the flood-prone areas of Hillsborough County.
Hey there, everybody. Ariel Placencia here on Bayshore Boulevard in South Tampa. This is a road that we will be watching very closely today, as we know that it is prone to flooding. Now, right now, the water is not crashing over the balustrades like we have seen in the past. All lanes remain open, and there is very light traffic out here on Wednesday morning. But again, Bayshore Boulevard here in Tampa and so many other streets are going to be ones that we are likely expecting to see underwater, thanks to all the rain that we've already had and all the rain that we know is coming with Milton.
It's hard to imagine after what we just went through less than 2 weeks ago how saturated the grounds are. I mean, with any amount of rain at this point, it's going to run off. The grounds, the soils are just not going to be able to absorb any of that rain. So pretty instantly, I think we're going to see some flooding concerns. I mean, we're talking 6, 12, and in some cases 18 inches of rain, and this is over a 24-hour period. So this is going to be a quick event, but a lot of rain coming down through the Thursday afternoon time frame, say.
Now here on Bayshore Boulevard, we are under a mandatory evacuation. This is Zone A. I should add that Zone B is also under a mandatory evacuation here in Hillsborough County. I'm Ariel Placencia. Now back to you.
Well, as of right now, Sarasota County is pretty much in the middle of this forecast cone.
And Fox 13's Matthew McClellan is down there for us this morning.
This Flying J off of I-4 in Seffner is packed with people filling up their tanks at the last minute, trying to get the last-minute preps done before Hurricane Milton arrives. And there are still some gas stations and truck stops like this one that have fuel.
It's unclear how long those supplies will last, and these gas stations will likely shut down in the coming hours as Hurricane Milton gets closer to making landfall. In the meantime, Governor DeSantis has said there is no fuel shortage at the moment. He says the state dispatched fuel reserves to gas stations that have run out, including several truck stops along the interstates. On Monday, fuel trucks were escorted by Florida Highway Patrol to deliver fuel to stations in the anticipated impact areas. The governor says companies like Racetrack, Wawa, Shell, and Walmart are working to keep fuel flowing before and after the storm. We talked with some drivers as they made last-minute trips to top off their tanks.
Just some final preparations, just that way I have a full tank of gas in case the storm gets pretty bad tonight.
There is a real concern among some experts that fuel supplies could be impacted by the storm. According to Fox Business, 10 gas companies operating in terminals along the waterfront in Tampa, including BP, Chevron, and Citgo, could be impacted by flooding and power outages.
Experts say it is a good idea to top off your tanks, fill up your cars before the storm arrives, but they recommend not filling up extra containers and definitely don't leave them around your house. In Tampa, Aaron Mesmer, Fox 13 News.
In St. Petersburg, the mayor says services like water and sewage could be out for days after the storm.
Fox 13's Kaylee Tracy has the latest on that.
Mayor Ken Welch says we'll start to see the stronger effects this afternoon by mid-afternoon. He says if you haven't left yet, now is the time to do so if you can safely. We've seen several homes in this neighborhood here in St. Pete like this one boarded up, and the mayor says expect services like water, sewer, and electric to be out after the storm for days, possibly weeks.
This is the reality of a direct hit from a powerful hurricane in our area. This is not a storm that we will recover from quickly. We have a long road ahead of us, but we will recover and we will rebuild together. We will all need to be patient and help our neighbors and our family members.
They expect to shut down the northeast and southwest sewer treatment facilities to keep the operators of those sites safe. They'll close the sites if 5 to 7 feet of water get into those sites or if the winds get unsafe for those operators and they have to evacuate them. They will let residents know beforehand if that decision is made. Officials are urging affected residents not to flush toilets, shower, or do laundry in that case. City officials hope to get those plants back up and running within 24 hours if they do shut them down, but they say it could take longer. In St. Pete, Kaylee Tracy, Fox 13 News.
We've got a lot of tornadoes you've been talking about.
Yeah, we do. And we've got yet another one. I mean, I just got another one just printed out here just as I was walking over here. This one is down into Hardy County, Polk County. So it's these same areas that keep spinning up these tornadoes, and they're just slowly working their way a little bit further to the north. So,
and think about where that hurricane is. I mean, there's distance.
Yeah, I mean, we're still. I mean, we're talking about all this right now. We're 1:43 in the afternoon, and we're not talking about landfall until late tonight with this. So we've got a long ways to go with this.
Wow. You remember Grady Judd when we were talking to him earlier? You asked him, "What's the thing that worries you the most?" And he said tornadoes.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got a lot of these. We've had a lot of confirmed tornadoes. There you see. Here's the next. This is the newest one here, working its way now through Polk County. This is moving to the northeast or northwest rather at 25 miles an hour. This is currently located near Avon Park, working its way up into Hardy and Polk County as well. So there you see it on Sky Tower radar, right there. You can see that definite rotation working its way northwest at 25 miles an hour. So over towards Fort Meade, into south of Bartow, south and east of Bartow. On towards the north and west, and that's just the newest one because we're just littered with these. Here's another one over towards Lake Wales and just to the south of Alcoma as well. This is one that we've been talking about for probably about 25 to 30 minutes as well. This one just getting ready to move right over 60, it looks like. So over towards Lakeshore, Alcoma, Hillcrest Heights, Highland Park, and say to the east right now of Lake Wales. So if you live just to the east of Lake Wales, this is heading in your direction. Also watching other areas down to our south. Looks like some of these starting to weaken, but again, here you see all the rain with this through Wauchula. So throughout Hardy County, stretching down into DeSoto County, and then just torrential rain now working its way up into Hillsborough County, stretching over into Pinellas County as well. You see more and more of this. Look at that, right across the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. That's where we're seeing these winds gusting well in excess of tropical storm now, 50, 53 miles an hour. I'm seeing the latest wind gusts with this, and more of these bands. And here's the eye. The eye is still well off the coastline, and it's nearing the coast, but we're still hours and hours away. about 120 miles off the coast of Sarasota right now. So it's going to basically trek right up in this direction. Still haven't seen much with this, but what we're going to be continuing to watch is as we go through the afternoon, we watch for that possibility of that wobble. And you start to see this more and more when you have these systems. They're kind of lopsided. You've got all this weather on one side. You've got the dry air eroding away that southern side. You start to see these wobbles in the system. And that's what we're going to watch for. It's absolutely impossible to predict when and where one of these wobbles might happen, but it's something that we're going to continue to watch for as we go through the rest of the afternoon. Here's the satellite imagery with this. At times you're seeing that, which is quite a bit of lightning right near the center. But now that the center is essentially compromised, you're going to continue to see that slow weakening trend. Now it's compromised because of the strong winds. That wind shear that we've talked so much about with this, that is really starting to help weaken this. That trough, the other thing that it's doing is what we call, it's picking it up and is just pushing it along right now and pushing it right into the state. Now, the other part of this is we actually have a cold front, which is working its way down. So an unusual situation because we have a tropical system interacting with a cold front, and what it's going to do is it's going to really enhance the rainfall. So that is going to be a really big concern as we go through the overnight hours on what we would normally consider that weaker side, the better side of the storm. Yes, you might deal with less wind, but you're going to deal with a lot more rain, it looks like. Look at the winds right now. There you see St. Petersburg gusting to 53 miles an hour, 47 in Clearwater. These are some of these areas that have some of these really strong bands working their way through, and we're just going to continue, I think, to see these winds working their way up even higher as we go through the rest of the afternoon, especially as we get more of these bands working their way through. So here is the now 1 p.m. advisory. Winds at 145 miles an hour, moving to the northeast at 17 miles an hour. Now, with these intermediate advisories, you're not going to see any track changes with these, but we're still looking at right around 8 o'clock tonight, this off the coast of Sarasota. So it does look like as we head into the late night hours, 11, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, this is going to be working its way onshore, somewhere between, looks like most likely Bradenton and Sarasota. As far as the eye is concerned, of course, the weather extends well beyond that, but we note where the eye is because you've got the strongest portion of this, and then from that eye to the south, that's where you're going to see that maximum storm surge. The worst part of this will be in that area. Those are the areas that are hit the hardest with this. And then notice as this works its way across the state, yeah, it's weakening, but still, we get over onto the eastern side of the state, and this is still a very strong Category 1 hurricane moving out into the Atlantic. Watch the Fox model, and this really depicts what's going on with this. You've got that southern side with a lot of that dry air working its way in, so you're not seeing all the storms down on that southern side. Notice where really all the weather is from Tampa to the north, and then watch as we go through time, watch what happens with this. It all works its way basically right along the I-4 corridor into the north, stretching over towards Orlando, stretching over towards Daytona, and these are the areas that are going to be dealing with 5 to 12 inches of rain, and we're going to see some areas of 18 inches of rain potentially. There you see, you can just see this highlighted area in yellow here. That's where you see over 7 inches of rain, this large swath extending all the way over onto the eastern side of the state. So 6 to 12 inches of rain isolated up to 18. Lesser amounts as you head to our south, but the issue much stronger down to our south as far as the winds and the surge along the immediate coastline, and then lesser amounts as you head further on to the north as well. Speaking of the surge, still, I mean, most of these areas are going to be wrong, just simply because it all really depends on where the eye moves ashore, but this is that worst case scenario up into Tampa Bay, 8 to 12 feet. It stays to our south. We don't see that maximum surge into the bay. It's good for Tampa Bay, but that also means our neighbors to the south, down into Manatee and Sarasota, will just continue to get more and more of that surge. But certainly at this point, it's pretty much locked in. Manatee County, Sarasota County, you are going to see that significant and extremely damaging, catastrophic storm surge down in those areas. As far as the winds, You see Manatee, Sarasota extending well inland as well. Southern Hillsborough County extending over into DeSoto and Hardy County as well. Winds in excess of 110 miles an hour. And even as you move over into Polk County, some of these areas, you may think, oh, these are coastal events. Yes, we get some strong winds, but we don't get the hurricanes here. Well, you're going to have hurricane force winds working its way through there as well and extending all the way across the state as well. We just continue to watch the hurricane planes, the hunters out there. We have one lands, we've got another one in this. So at this point, until landfall, they are continuously in this system. So we're just going to continue to monitor and watch as that center nears the coastline. We watch for any potential wobbles, but that's something it's just kind of a wait and see. And that's something we can't forecast, but it's something we're just kind of wait and see as we go through the afternoon. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and toss back to the anchors, Russell and Laura. So, or actually, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to a break here. Take a quick short break. We're back in a minute.
Welcome back. Pasco County is still expected to get heavy rain and strong winds.
Charlie Belcher's at the Emergency Operations Center where officials are monitoring Milton's movements.
As the wind and the rain picks up and will continue to deteriorate throughout the day here in Pasco County, they know overnight tonight they are going to have a problem with flooding.
So we're looking at unprecedented flooding on the east side of the county. Zephyr Hills, Dade City, we have our Anclote River in Elfers. That's going to go into major flooding. So we are going to have neighborhoods flooded again. We are going to have roadways closed down. It's going to be, like I said, it's unprecedented. We're going to have severe riverine flooding, not so much the surge flooding, but we are having surge still.
What do you see as the initial concerns as soon as we get through the thick of it?
It's going to be debris, number one, because we have debris remaining from Helene, and this surge is going to make a mess out of it, and then it's going to be rescues. So we are going to have a lot of rescues on the west side of the county, most likely.
So wherever you are in the county, wherever you're riding out this storm, you run into trouble in the middle of the night, call 911, let them know what's happening. They will do their best to get to you if they can. Of course, winds over 40 miles an hour, they won't be able to roll out immediately, but they ask you to be patient. And especially when the sun comes up tomorrow, they know that there's a lot of people going to need some help, and they'll get to you just as soon as they can. In Newport Richey, Charlie Belcher, Fox 13 News.
Take a break. Be right back. Welcome back. What do you want me to do? Read this? It's okay. It's not just the human residents of Tampa Bay that are seeking a safe place to stay. Zoo Tampa posted a video sharing their Milton preparations. Animals of all shapes and sizes have been moved to a night house. We don't have the video. I'm not going to read this.
I tell you what, let's do this. Let's go straight to the radar. Let's go Sky Tower radar because we have 5 tornado warnings. And I'm going to say thank you to Laura and Russell. You guys have been here early, and we're going to kick you guys out. Okay, you guys are leaving
right now.
Great job today,
We got Linda Hurtado in the wings. She's going to be here. We've got Valerie and we've got Jim. And I want to turn it over to Jim because in the last few minutes, we've had, Jim, more of these little tornado warnings pop up.
Yeah, we've got more of these warnings just continue. I mean, one after the other. We just continue to watch these same areas time after time. I was just saying a minute ago, Highlands County, you've been sitting in your closet in your safe place, it seems like, for probably 3 hours because we just continue to have more of these warnings. But just zooming into these areas that we continue to watch, and I'm going to go ahead and look at the rotation in this, and you see the reason why, because we've got a number of these areas that we're still watching. Here's one north and east of Arcadia. We have another one that is just to the south in the Charlotte County. Let me move the radar down a little bit so we can continue to see this area that we're talking about. And then here's another one down towards Lake Placid as well. All of these moving to the north or the northwest, 25 to 30 miles an hour. So if you're in any of these boxes, that includes up towards Wauchula, that includes south and east of Arcadia, over towards Lake Placid. These are all areas that you want to be in that safe location in your house because we have tornadoes. Here's another one as we work our way up into Polk County. So many of these areas that we're continuing to watch, Lake Wales. This is one right now just starting to work its way over Highway 60 in Alcoma. I want to look at see if we have any debris with this. And it does look, well, I don't think we can really see it with this one. But when you look at that rotation here, definitely a very strong, you see the red shade in there, that is indicative of some very strong rotation right now. East of Lake Wales, this is moving to the north at about 25 miles an hour. So this is, I think, probably a very dangerous situation and quite likely a tornado on the ground right here. This warning goes until 2:15, so another 15 minutes. I would not be surprised if this is extended. So places that are just to the north of this, Dundee up towards Davenport, these are areas that you're going to be watching this very closely, but for the time being, the areas that we're most concerned about in and around Lake Wales, zooming down towards Alcoma, Mammoth Grove Road, then stretching up towards Timberlane Road, Canal Road. These are all east of, say, Waverly, Lake Wales, north and east of Lake Wales. These are the areas that we're watching very, very closely with this, which is showing a definite sign of rotation right there. You can see it working its way over Highway 60 right now. That's the one that at this point, I'm probably the most concerned about right now, moving through some population as you look further down to the south. Here's another one that we have, which is currently just to the east of 17, right near Brownsville, and also heading to the north up towards Zolfo Springs as well, probably in the next, say, 20 minutes or so. Here's another one that is south of Lake Placid that we're watching as well, and that one is right now to the east of Highway 27. Again, each one of these areas is a tornado. None of these are confirmed tornadoes at this point, but we've had a lot of these have had past confirmed tornadoes, so a lot of rotation in each one of these. And then when you look at the radar itself, you're not going to see this because these are all rain wrapped. This is torrential rain with each one of these that are working their way through. And this is going to continue to just be something that we watch for more of these as we go through the rest of the afternoon and into tonight. Now, along the coastline, you're seeing some really strong rain. Southern Pinellas County, over into Hillsborough, stretching down into Manatee County as well. And notice where the eye is. I mean, here's the eye with this right out here. And this is currently sitting, get a distance on this, We're running now under 100 miles to the coast of Sarasota. So it's getting closer to us, but our main concern at the moment, it's this band right here. So you see what's going on. We've got this band that rotates through here, and so really anywhere inside of this, that's where we're seeing just more and more of that rotation with these, which will continue to work their way, basically spiraling up to the north. So it's not going to be too long until I think we start to see some of these getting into, say, western Polk County, also over into Hillsborough County as well, southeastern Hillsborough County, eastern Hillsborough County. These are some areas I think over the next hour or so, we're going to have to really start to pay attention to some of the cells moving their way into these areas as well. I hear yet another tornado warning. It looks like it is probably right here, one of the areas that I just spoke about.
Central Polk County.
Central Polk County. I've got Valerie Mills joining me here, and this is the area that we're talking about right now, working its way through Waverly. What do you got on that?
Yeah, so this warning set to run through 2:45. Looks like this severe thunderstorm located right near Lake Wales. That's moving northwest at 25 miles per hour. So we're watching this storm right around areas near Winter Haven, Haines City, as well as Lake Wales. That just popped up here on the radar. Jim was just kind of indicating that ahead of this warning coming out. So some of the other locations that could be impacted in the path of this, we're going to shout out some of those places. Highland Park, Crooked Lake Park, Inwood, Poinciana, Cypress Gardens, Dundee, up into the Winter Haven Airport area, as well as Lake Hamilton and Polk City. So those are some of the areas kind of in line with where we are kind of tracking this storm to be heading.
So just to give you some times on this, right near Waverly, 13 minutes, Dundee, 18 minutes, Poinciana Park, 27 minutes, up towards Lake Alfred in about 35 minutes, Davenport, about 37 minutes. And this is a cell that we just continue to see rotation for probably about 70 miles now, and at times we've had a confirmed tornado on the ground. We've seen damage with this. We've seen signs of debris by radar with this. So this is a situation you want to take extremely serious into eastern and central portions of Polk County. And you see where this is heading. This is eventually heading right up towards I-4, very close to Champions Gate, over towards Polk City as well. This also does include Auburndale and eastern portions of Auburndale over towards Lake Alfred as well. A lot of population in these in these areas as well. And just go out a little bit wider on this and look at the radar, because you just continue to see these bands working their way through. And so this is really all just part of one large band that is working its way through.
See this tornado outbreak that's coming through, and of course we know that watch extends through tonight, and so as these rain bands kind of continue to move in, we do expect more of these to kind of pop up. Now, kind of just pointing out now, we have a confirmed tornado there in Highlands, Florida, and we've got another latest update coming in right now for that, but it does look like that is a confirmed tornado on the ground. So those in that area, we need you to make sure you're just staying in your safe place. Get there if you're not already. Particularly very dangerous situation coming from the National Weather Service. So you need to take cover now if you're in those areas. We do have a confirmed tornado on the ground there in central Highlands County. And this is a large and very dangerous tornado located right near Lake Placid. It's moving north about 20 miles per hour, Jim.
Yeah, so this is the, we've got so much on the radar here. I'm going to highlight the one that specifically that we're talking about. That is the newest and the latest warning. Notice it's flashing purple. That tells us it is confirmed right now, and this is working its way right near Lake Placid. I'm going to zoom in here so we can get a better idea. So you see Parker Island, Lake Placid, basically right up 27. This is the direction that this is moving right here. This is moving to the north. At about 20 miles an hour right now.
Yeah, very close to Lake Josephine. It looks like Archibald as well, Placid Lakes and Loretta. So all of these areas, a lot of lakes up and around these parts, and quite a few people, living and, having homes right there in these areas. So quite a few people, kind of right in line of where this very dangerous kind of storm and tornado is traveling. So we need you to get in your safe place, not near any windows, as we continue to just ride this out and watch this. This warning set to run here for the next 20 minutes or so, but we're continuing to kind of highlight this area right near Parker Island, where we are seeing some indications of some rotation, some potential debris that we may be able to kind of see here on our radar indicated area. But yeah, you can see that right along Highway 27 and kind of stretching out to Parker Island area, looks like.
Yeah, so you've got a Highway 27, you get up towards Taft Avenue, you get up towards Virginia Avenue as well. These are all areas that this is heading right in your direction right now, extending it further on towards the north. You see where this is. There you see DeSoto City, Larida, right over here. You get all these areas have to, basically, if you live, say, to the east of 27 down here, this is the area in the Highlands County that we are watching most closely right now, because it looks like this rotation is basically just riding right up 27 in southern Highlands County, working its way, southern and central Highlands County, working its way on towards the north as well.
And I was just reading, this is coming from a trained spotter who is saying there's a large wedge tornado on the ground. It's moving north-northeast near Lake Placid Lakes, rather, near State Road 70 and US 27. So kind of these areas that we're focusing in on.
That's this area right here.
But to think about, we can't see it, but to think about a large wedge tornado on the ground, that's very scary. And we have continued to see some of these videos and pictures of these really massive tornadoes that are spinning up with all of these rain bands and all of that friction that is going to continue to occur as these kind of whip across the state, really.
Yeah, I mean, and this is something that you're not used to talking about here. When you start hearing something like a large wedge tornado, it just gives you an indication of how much power is in these storms and how quickly these spin up. And these are very large and destructive tornadoes. And then on top of it, they're long track tornadoes. So we're seeing these go for miles and miles and miles, and we just continue. I shown this earlier. Let me go out a little wider on this, and I'll show you this. We look at the tracks here. And so what we've seen with this, as you're just going to draw the lines on here, you can see we see these green lines. And basically, we just continue to see these tracks over and over, and you see where these are going.
Wow.
These are working their way right through these areas that we have these confirmed tornadoes, and then they work their way up in the Highland, or up into Polk County rather, as well. So we're just going to continue to see this, and I just don't think we're going to see much in the way of any let up from this. It will continue to be a situation like this, and then on top of it, you have so much rain in this. So these are all rain wrapped, very dangerous situations. So you've got the torrential rain, you've got the very strong winds. Some of these winds are gusting right now 45, 50 miles an hour just because of the rain and all the strong winds that are in this. And then on top of that, you have an embedded tornado in there as well. So just again, looking at these, this is the one confirmed tornado. I mean, this looks about as dangerous as it gets right there.
Yeah, and moving right into Lake Placid. I mean, that is, not a very populated area, but there are a lot of houses right in and around there. I know a lot of people who have houses in this area. So there are certainly a lot of little towns here, and so very dangerous situation as we think about kind of the sheer size and strength of a wedge tornado of this kind of magnitude, of the size that we're seeing here on our radar indicated kind of storm velocity, where we're seeing those winds kind of heading toward the radar, away from the radar. That's where we get that indication of some spin. That's what we look for. But of course, now we know, we have spotters in this area who are seeing, and we're going to continue to see if we maybe get any of that video or, pictures of what, these spotters on the ground are actually seeing here in the Lake Placid area.
Yeah, just zooming in. I mean, here you see Highland Parks Estates. You're seeing a lot of little roads in here. This is obviously, this is a community, some subdivisions here. In and around 27 heading to the north. So there are plenty of homes down here, and this is working its way right through this area, and that is a very definite signature right there. I mean, you're seeing very strong rotation in this, And with the confirmation here that we've got a tornado on the ground, if you're in this area, if you're just north of this area, this is the time you want to take cover. You want to be in that safe location in your house, away from any windows. Towards the center of your house, you want to be on the lowest level. If you have a two-story home, you want to go to the lower level of the home as well. And this extends just to the south of Sebring. But if this continues to show this rotation, this could very easily extend further on to the north, and we could eventually see this warning extended further into northern Citrus County and eventually up into Polk County as well. So that's something that we're going to continue to watch for as well. But this is the area that we're seeing that very definite rotation on radar right now, working its way over Lake Placid, right along Highway 27, pushing on towards the north as well. So you can see there's definitely some communities in this area as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we've been saying, you know, if you're watching here in these areas, some of the communities that you see here on the map, or maybe you're hearing us shout out, you need to get to your safe space. We don't want you out near the windows trying to look outside and see what you might be able to see as we're talking about this, because as we're kind of seeing all of these storms spin up, they are very heavy rain-wrapped areas. So even if you were to be trying to maybe see what you can see as a lot of active weather out and around your house, you won't be able to see too much. And it is a dangerous situation as we have a confirmed tornado on the ground kind of tracking to the north and northeast of these areas. So we want you on a lower level, want you in an interior room, definitely away from the windows. We're just going to have to keep riding this out, because we certainly are going to talk about more of these. And, you know, you talk about the long track that these are able to kind of sustain themselves. You know, when we're talking about tornadoes associated with hurricanes and hurricane bands like this, they're typically a little bit different than these supercell tornadoes that we do see. So we typically see them strong, but relatively short-lived. So to be talking about these kind of triggering as they continue to sustain themselves, I mean, just kind of goes to show the energy here in the atmosphere, the energy that these storms and these tornadic storms are feeding off of. Just a very dangerous situation, and something that we're just going to have to watch right on through the afternoon and evening.
Yeah, and inside of these bands, I think that the common thing for people to do is, now you're in one of these bands, you get the strong winds, and you start hearing something knocking around outside, and you're thinking, hey, I need to go outside, I need to strap this down, I need to take care of this. In these areas, this is something you don't want to do, because you could very easily be walking right into a tornado. So that might be what's going on, or you might have that tornado on top of you very quickly, because you just see how much rain is working its way through there, and embedded in these, you may not be right under that tornado, but there are winds 50, 60 miles an hour, working their way through these as well. But
yeah, and you know, we're at the point where, you know, even if we're not talking about a tornado right near you, there is certainly going to start to be flying debris, breaking branches, that sort of thing. So regardless, it is a dangerous situation, and it's that point in the event where we're starting to see those tropical storm conditions really expand, and it is at this point moving forward where everyone should be in their safe place where they're going to ride out the rest of this storm. We talked about how things are slowly going to deteriorate, and that's what we've really seen over the last 2 hours or so. And it looks like our latest update, we're seeing this confirmed tornado that we've been tracking 6 miles southeast of Archbold. So just kind of keeping up with the general area that we're continuing to watch here, and the latest updates that are coming from, you know, some of our weather spotters on the ground and that sort of thing.
yeah, I think what we're looking at right here, I think we're seeing some signs of some debris working its way now basically right along 27, south of 98, up towards Coleman as well. And so this is heading, again, in that north and northwesterly direction, about 20 miles an hour. And I think we're starting to get some signs.
You know what,
again.
I wonder if this is a picture of the wedge tornado, because this was about 17 minutes ago in Lake Placid. So this might actually be it. I'll try and get this kind of clipped over, and maybe we can show it on air. Just the sheer size of this, a pretty scary looking storm, and to be kind of traveling right there along a state highway and see that off in the distance, I mean, that is just terrifying.
Yes. So again, we're watching this, waiting for another update from the radar here. But you do see in this area, moving up 27. I'm going to go ahead and put this into motion and go out a little bit wider on this so you can see, just get an idea of how everything's been moving along. And there you see the center, the eye, off the coastline, but you continue to see that band working its way through as well, right through here. And we just continue to see so many tornadoes and tornado warnings embedded in this main band. And then you also have some just sort of breaking off up into northeastern portions now of Polk County. So I want to zoom into that area as well, up in the northeastern Polk County, because this is yet another tornado warning that we were talking about earlier. Now working its way from Lake Wales, pushing up to the north. So this is an area that we have to watch over the next half an hour or so as well. So Haines City over towards Davenport, just to the east of Auburndale. Definite sign here. We look at, stop the radar, and we'll look at some of the rotation in this. Looks like right now probably the strongest rotation very near Dundee, Lake Hamilton, to the east of Cypress Gardens. I'm going to go ahead and circle the area that we're talking about right through here. And this is working its way to the north and northwest about 20 to 25 miles an hour. So up towards Davenport, this is an area that it is heading in your direction, and then eventually up towards I-4, over towards Champions Gate, to the east of Polk City, and also Lake Alfred. Lake Alfred very close to this as well. So if you're in any of these areas, you want to take cover now, because we also have a what looks to be a tornado in this area as well, working its way very quickly on towards the north and the east. Now, we've got so many areas that we're tracking. We also have down into Highlands County once again, also Hardy and DeSoto County. Those in Hardy and DeSoto do look like they're starting to weaken, the rotation with those, but I think one that we're watching most closely is along 27 with the latest update on the radar. It does look like this might be starting to weaken. I probably want to wait and see a little bit more as far as the scan on this, but we had a very definite rotation. If I back up the radar here, just going back, that's when it was moving right over Lake Placid. We go forward in time to current time, and you're seeing this is starting to become a bit more elongated. You're not seeing nearly is good of a sign of rotation here. You're starting to see more of these strong winds, but you're not seeing as much of the rotation with this. So this may be starting to weaken, but if you're in this area near Coleman, up towards DeSoto City as well, and say just to the south of Sebring, I want you to go ahead and I want you to stay in your safe location right now, because we still do have a tornado warning that goes until 2:30, so another 10 minutes in this area. But it does look like potentially this is starting to weaken. But we have seen this a number of times throughout the morning and throughout early this afternoon. We see these starting to weaken, and then they ramp right back up in intensity. So just because we're starting to see this signs that this may be weakening at this moment, we kind of want to wait a few more minutes here to see if that trend continues. Because as I look at this, I mean, we're already starting to see maybe the signs of yet maybe another rotation trying to start right near Sebring as well. Look at the radar. Let's see if that coincides with an actual cell in that area, and it does. So that's something, I mean, it's at this point, this might just be some strong winds in this location, but it might also be a cell. Did you get that picture over there? Or is that where
I'm trying
okay,
to get in there, but haven't gotten it.
Yeah, so we're still working on trying to get some of these pictures in there, where we did see from one person down in the Highlands County, right along 27, of that large wedge tornado. So very, very scary situation. But we're going to continue to track some of these areas. And again, I just mentioned this. As along 27, we are starting to see some signs that maybe this is weakening, and just as quickly as it looked like it was starting the weekend, we might start to see this starting to re-intensify a little bit. So can't say that we absolutely have something on the ground right here. We'd had a confirmed tornado earlier. This still could quite possibly be a tornado on the ground right along 27, or maybe even shifting a little bit to the west of 27. So anywhere in this area near Coleman, DeSoto City, south of DeSoto City, south of 98. These are the areas that we're watching most closely, where we're seeing that definite sign of some rotation with this. And I'm hearing yet another tornado warning here. This is for DeSoto, Hardy, and Highlands County. So this is the area here as we go out wide once again. So that was DeSoto, Hardy, and Highlands County. So we'll wait for this to populate on here because the radar, I think, is starting to have trouble even keeping up with these. But this one goes until 3 o'clock this afternoon. So that one is this area right here. And that's Highlands County. This is for, again, we'll just run through the counties again. Eastern Hardy County, southeastern Polk County, northeastern DeSoto County. This goes until 3 o'clock. This is a radar indicated, so there's not a confirmation at this point of a tornado. But I think the area that we're most specifically talking about is this right here, which at one point was a confirmed tornado, but at this point working its way right up 27. This is moving. It says at 2:22, this was a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located near Sylvan Shores, near Lake Placid. This is moving to the north at 30 miles an hour. So again, same basic areas that we continue to watch with each one of these cells. And again, you have so much activity as far as the rainfall. That's what you're looking at here. You're just looking at all the heavy rain with this. And notice the lightning's on. You're just not seeing a lot of lightning, which is very typical when you have these tropical systems. There'll be lightning near the eye. There'll be some lightning sporadic through it. But for the most part, there's not a lot of lightning that is associated with tropical systems. But you have that torrential rain, and it comes down about as hard as you'll ever see. But you also have embedded in these bands, and what is causing all our issues right now are the spin-up tornadoes. Typically, you see these, they spin up, they travel 10, 15 miles, and they lift. And we see another one develop somewhere else. But what we've seen with this is essentially long-track tornadoes, which have gone, maybe not continuously, but the same cell has continued to produce and prompt tornado warnings, and at times confirmed tornado warnings for 50, 60, 70 miles. So it continues to be an issue with watching this. Yep. If you got the picture, let's take the time to switch over to this.
It gets a little, you know, kind of loses some of its pixelation here, but it just kind of goes to show what we're talking about, what people are seeing here. This in the Lake Placid area. This picture was snapped right around 2 o'clock. That was exactly when this warning was issued. Very good reason for that. That looks like it's just outside the highway. You can see that car there driving by. A massive wedge tornado, a very dangerous situation, especially given, you know, how close we are talking about this to, you know, highways and some of the towns there. I know there's a little airport there that was mentioned in one of the places in line. And so we're still continuing to see some signs of rotation there on the radar. But just the sheer size of this, pretty incredible that we are seeing such large tornadoes that continue to spin up. And, you know, we talk about some of the ones that we've also seen. This is the one that we saw just a little bit ago. You can see this one's a video right around Palm Beach County. We've had some of these far east into Broward County as well. And so these are very large, very dangerous tornadoes, something we don't always see as we're talking about these hurricanes. You know, every hurricane is definitely different, but this one has already proven that it's going to be a very proficient tornado producer. And so we just have to be really on high alert with this, because this storm, we've been talking about it, it is bringing a whole host of threats to the area, including the storm surge, including the heavy rain, the hurricane force winds, but we have been mentioning the potential for those tornadoes. And the fact that we're just seeing so many of these warnings, I mean, at this point, we're talking about a tornado outbreak for these areas. We're just seeing warning after warning, confirmed tornadoes. And so we just have to stay on high alert. Make sure you have a way to get these kind of advisories and alerts issued. It's great that you're on here with us, and we'll continue to update you as we, you know, see more of these pop up, I'm sure, through the event, as really we're talking about the brunt of this storm later tonight into the early Thursday morning hours. So, you know, it's one of those nights where you even take the family and sleep in your safe space if you are home in these areas that are under a tornado watch.
Yeah, you really do. And just since we talked about the last warning, we've had 2 more warnings come out. I mean, that's how quickly these are coming right now. So you look at the radar, and here we are. This is in extreme southern Highlands County. This one goes until 3 o'clock, and this is the area that we're talking about. You can see this rotation once again. This time it looks like just to the west of 27. This is heading up towards Venus. Eventually looks like working its way up towards Archbold. Childs, Parker Island once again could be under this. This is the warning right here. Definite rotation, it looks like, right there, working its way on that western side of 27. This is just to the south of the county line of Highlands County down into Glades County. So we have that warning. We also have yet another warning. This is the one that has been extended. This is for really the rest of Highlands County, because once again, the vast majority of Highlands County is under some kind of a warning right now, either a confirmed tornado or a possible tornado on the ground. And this one goes until 3 o'clock. This also extends up into portions of Hardy County, eastern and northeastern Hardy County, because you see here we've got a rotation over here. We have a rotation between Sebring and Lake Placid. This one that is south of Sebring showing more and more signs. So right now over DeSoto City. Remember, this was the one that, for time, this was a confirmed tornado. And that's, I believe this is the one that we actually have the picture of, as it was even further to the south. So not necessarily on the ground at this point, but we're definitely seeing a possibility that it could be on the ground in this area. I want to flip over, see if we see any signs. Not seeing any signs right now. A little muddled with the radar data to see if we are actually seeing any debris, but we're definitely seeing some rotation. There you see it right near DeSoto City, also on that western side of Sebring, right over the lake. And then basically where the road kind of splits off around Sebring, you get 17 going one way, you get 27 going the other way. So we've got some signs of some rotation there. We also have some signs further on towards the west, over into Hardy County, in and around Lemon Grove, or just to the south of there. And then we've got Wauchula over here right on the edge of the screen. So this is basically to the south and east of Wauchula, with this rotation. As we scoot the radar over, you can see where Wauchula is on there as well. So lots going on, and the radar is just littered with all these warnings. We just continue as quickly as one warning goes away, yet another warning comes up, yet another spin in the atmosphere. So at this point, I think we're watching 4 distinct different areas right now, and you see all the warnings on here. And of course, over on the eastern side of the state as well, they were expecting to see this activity later on today. And you see over towards 95, over towards Port St. Lucie, over in Osceola County, over towards Sebastian and the Satellite Beach to the south and west of there. They are dealing with these as well. Another area that we essentially almost forgot about, but it's still there. This is near Dundee, basically working its way right up 27. So Hayden City to the east of Lake Alfred. I'm still seeing a lot of strong winds. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of do a little query of some of the winds in this. And this is up. This is higher up in the atmosphere, but indicative of what kind of winds we're looking at in this area. As you look at the actual reflectivity of the radar, this is intense line of storms working its way through right near Lake Alfred, along 17, stretching down towards Dundee as well, and Haines City pushing up towards Davenport, just to the south of I-4. And all this is very quickly working its way in that north and northwesterly direction, 25, 30 miles an hour right now. We look for some of the rotation in this, and definitely we're seeing signs of rotation from Dundee to Lake Hamilton, basically right along 27. These are the areas that we're seeing the strongest amounts of rotation in this. And so these are the areas that, if you're under this warning, if you're in this area, you want to take cover as well. You want to be in that safe location in your house. Again, just to kind of go out wide to give you a perspective of the areas that we're talking about. This is in that eastern portion of Polk County, stretching up just to the south of I-4. We also have down in the Highlands County, and you see really at this point the vast majority of Highlands County is under some kind of a warning right now. The only maybe good news that I have at the moment is there's no confirmed tornado. No confirmed tornado warnings right now. These are all radar indicated at this moment. But again, at this moment, the number of warnings that we've had, the number of warnings that have turned into confirmed tornadoes, we have to treat each one of these as if this is a confirmed tornado on the ground.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
You can't take the risk of that.
And I just want to note, Jim, because we just got this message in from the National Weather Service, we do have a flash flood warning now for part of Pinellas County. We have already seen about up to 3.5 inches of rain, and of course, all of these rain bands, they are going to be able to produce these rainfall rates 2-3 inches per hour. And so already we are starting to see some of those flood concerns. I kind of mentioned that earlier this morning, that this is most certainly going to be an issue, and we are really just getting going. And so we have a lot of additional rain to get through as this storm continues to approach. And, you know, if at any point you want me to kind of jump into just the forecast and talk about some of the basics, you let me know when you're ready for just a breather.
I mean, I just wanted to point out here that what we're looking at is, I mean, we're still so early on.
It's a lot of
and,
rain.
and you see, this is just getting started, and we've already had 3, close to 4. In fact, you head down towards Bradenton, Bayshore Gardens, we're already seeing 4 inches of rain in these areas. I think as we've got a little bit of a lull in some of the warnings, maybe we go ahead and we talk about the rest of what's going on here. If you want to go ahead and you want to talk about some of this.
Yeah, sure. Because you know, as we've been saying, this storm is going to just bring a whole host of issues to our area, and we're certainly starting to see those unfold. We just talked about that flash flood warning. Of course, all of these tornado warnings with that watch running until 9 o'clock tonight. So as for what's happening with Hurricane Milton, we've been doing this tornado coverage for so long now. We haven't taken an actual look at the storm. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into our forecast from here before we send it off to Linda for some more. But checking on satellite and wind shear here, we can really see the influence that it's having on Hurricane Milton. Still a very strong storm, but look at what all of these upper level winds, as they're interacting with this cold front, this dip in the jet stream, and some drier air, it's really starting to pull across the top of this storm. So we look further south, still looking pretty good. It's maintaining itself in this area as it's still sitting in very warm Gulf waters, but what we're starting to see is that wind shear kind of tear apart the top of this storm. And so these are all of the factors that are anticipated to continue to weaken this storm on approach to making landfall. But look at the winds. Those are really starting to ramp up. We're up to 55-mile-per-hour gusts in St. Pete, about 43 in Clearwater, 39 for Tampa. And so kind of we're starting to see these tropical storm force winds move into our area, and they're going to expand across a large part of the area. That's kind of the thing with this storm. Even though it's weakening, it still has, say, the energy of a Category 5 storm. And so what it's going to do with all of that energy is spread it outward. And so while we're talking about a slightly weaker storm, possibly maybe a Category 3 at landfall, it's still going to be a very strong hurricane regardless. And so all of the impacts are going to be a big deal, and they're going to be far-reaching. People well outside of this cone are going to be feeling these tropical, even hurricane-force conditions at times. Of course, the rain is also going to be a big concern. I'll show you that in just a minute. But here's our latest look. Wednesday, 8 p.m. This is just off the coast, 125-mile-per-hour winds. But then look at how it maintains its strength as it scrapes right across central parts of the area. We're talking this emerging back off the East Coast, off the Space Coast as a Category 1 hurricane, 85-mile-per-hour winds. We're right now at 130-mile-per-hour winds, and the latest check on where Milton is now about 150 miles to the southwest of us here in Tampa. So as we take a look at our Fox model here, we've already seen these rain bands starting to move through and impact the area. But I just want to note, look at how much rain and really deep convection is on the north side of this storm. This is going to be a big concern for a lot of areas. You can kind of notice even, look at kind of the southern side of this eye. It gets a little bit eroded away at. We don't have all of this deep convection that wraps all the way around. That's some of that drier air working its way on the backside of the storm and eroding away at some of that. And so that's going to be something that overall is going to be a good thing as far as not as much rain on the south side, but it's up here where actually that dip in the jet stream that I showed you just a minute ago should actually enhance some of the rain and storms up here in this section of the storm. And so that's going to be a problem off across the Space Coast, Daytona Beach, some of those areas. We've seen them upgraded in the watches as of some of the latest updates here from yesterday into today. And you can see that reflected on our rain map tracker. We're talking the potential for this general area just to the north of where landfall occurs for there to be area-wide 6 to 12 inches of rain, and some spots are certainly going to get closer to that 18-inch range. So flash flooding is going to be a big concern, especially as we get closer to any of those rivers, waterways that we know are going to swell up and continue to cause more problems as far as that is concerned. So we've got a lot more local impacts to talk to. I just wanted to roll through some of them for you, but I'm going to send it off to you now, Linda. Jim and I will have more in just a bit.
Nice job, both of you, keeping us updated on those tornadoes. The winds are picking up, and they are becoming seriously dangerous. The rain is falling as Hurricane Milton approaches. I'm Linda Hurtado, and we'll be with you every step of the way. Conditions will only worsen throughout the afternoon, and the worst is expected to arrive overnight with a storm surge that could outdo Helene. Our bridges are beginning to close. Let's take a live look now from FDOT's camera on the Howard Franklin Bridge. You can see now closed to traffic. The westbound directions of both the Gandy and Courtney Campbell bridges are also closed. The Sunshine Skyway Bridge closed now to traffic, and signage has been posted to alert drivers. It is typical for the Skyway to close whenever the wind speeds reach about 40 miles per hour. And in these final hours before Milton's landfall, Pinellas County opened 3 new shelters this morning. Those include Palm Harbor Middle School in Palm Harbor, New Heights Elementary and Fairmont Park Elementary, both in St. Pete. More than 8,000 people have utilized them so far, and they have room for 20,000. Only thing to keep in mind is Lealman Innovation, Largo High School, and Palm Harbor University Building 19 are now at capacity, but you still have 11 that are available. Pinellas Emergency Management understands shelters are not the most comfortable option, but at this point, it is better than finding yourself in a life-threatening situation. The county's communication director says they've heard from a lot of people living in mandatory evacuation zones saying they believe they can seal up their homes and just ride the storm out. But this is what happened during Hurricane Helene 2 weeks ago.
They were desperate pleas from people who said, I made a stupid decision. I thought I could weather the storm. Water is rising. I'm on top of my counter. Please send somebody to help me. And at that point, we couldn't send anybody out there because the conditions had worsened so badly. And so if people are thinking that somehow they have a special protection, somehow they're going to be okay because they've been okay in the past, they have not seen the storm that we're going to see.
So what could we see in Pinellas County? The officials are anticipating tropical storm conditions this afternoon. And then, as we said, worse conditions overnight. 130-mile-per-hour winds or stronger. Wall of storm surge could come up to the bay and across our coast. The wall of water could be between 9 to 13 feet on our beaches and up to 15 feet in bayfront areas. There are still people trying to move out of the storm's path, but finding gas is a challenge. And Fox 13's Aaron Mesmer is in Sefner with a look at that.
Most of the remaining gas stations and truck stops are now either closing or are closed for the remainder of the day. That includes this one, which is the Flying J truck stop off of I-4 in Sefner. Earlier today, the gas station was packed with drivers topping off their tanks and filling up gas containers. A short time ago, Governor DeSantis gave an update on the fuel situation in Florida. He says the state has 1.1 million gallons of gas and 1.6 million gallons of diesel on hand and ready to distribute after Hurricane Milton passes. During the last couple of days, Florida Highway Patrol escorted 106 long-distance fuel tankers to make emergency fuel deliveries. DeSantis also warned that there may be interruptions at the ports in Tampa and Manatee County, and the state is working on contingency plans if that happens. Drivers, meanwhile, across Tampa Bay are also making their own contingency plans if fuel is hard to come by following the storm.
Well, basically, I have one car that's full of gas just in case we did decide to leave early. So I figure, I heard the governor on the news this morning saying the truck stops are open. They should have more supply of gas than the regular gas stations. So I said, let me Google, and they're open. They're open across the street, and I need a funnel also. So why not get some gas and fill up 2 cars?
There is a real concern among some experts that fuel supplies could be impacted by the storm. According to Fox Business, 10 gas companies operating in terminals along the waterfront in Tampa, including BP, Chevron, and Citgo, could be impacted by flooding and power outages. Now, experts say topping off the gas tank, filling up the gas in preparation for the storm is, of course, a good idea. However, they say you should not fill up extra containers and definitely don't leave them inside the house. In Tampa, Aaron Mesmer, Fox 13 News.
And you can find more storm coverage right in the palm of your hand on our Fox Local mobile app. It has the latest county updates, even forecast videos from our weather team. And you can also stream our live newscast. It's free to download for iPhone and Android phones, and it's great to have once the power goes out. And another option, radio. Several local radio stations are carrying our newscasts, and you can listen to our hurricane coverage on 102.5 The Bone, 97X, 101.5 The Vibe. So we're going to break, or are we going back to Jim? All right, let's go back to Jim.
Yeah, watching yet another warning here, and we flip over to Sky Tower radar. And what we're looking at is across Polk County. That's the area that we're watching right now. If you can give me my radar output here. What we're looking at is another warning. There you go. Thank you. That goes until 3:15. This is that one cell. I mean, what's interesting about this, just from the scientific standpoint, this is a cell that was essentially working its way to the north. Now, because it's part of that whole band, it's now turning more towards a northwesterly direction. So you watch that cell over towards Dundee. It was basically at one point heading towards I-4 and now making that turn. And you can see this area. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in to this spot because right near Auburndale. This may be passing over Auburndale, maybe just to the north of it. But right now it looks like it's working its way very close to you, between 17 and 92. This is the area as I stop the radar and circle this spot right there. And we look at the rotation in this, and you're seeing a very strong rotation. You're seeing those reds in there. That is showing that very, very strong rotation right now between Lake Alfred, Auburndale, and Winter Haven, situated right in this one spot. This is a radar indicated tornado moving to the northwest at 25 miles an hour. This warning goes until 3:15 for portions of Polk County. So if you're anywhere in and around Auburndale, to the north or to the west of Auburndale, and this is over towards Foxtown, Polk City, along I-4, and across the Polk Parkway as well, especially on that eastern side. If you live in any of these areas, I'm going to go ahead and go in a bit closer so you can see some. I mean, there's a lot of population in this area. Auburndale, pretty populated area, and so it is working its way right through this area right now. So if you're in these locations, you're the one. I want you to go into that safe location, away from any windows, lower level of your house. You can turn the TV up so you can hear us. You can also, you can get the Fox Local app. You should have that on your phone right now. You can turn us on that app, and you can listen in case your power goes out. Your TV is going to go off, but your cell phone is going to continue to work, so you can continue to hear us. You can continue to hear those warnings that we're giving you as well. And definitely seeing a very strong rotation in this area as we look at the velocities. This is a very strong. If you don't have an actual tornado on the ground, you most certainly have some very, very strong winds in this cell right now, moving through Lake Alfred over towards Auburndale as well. You see some of these winds, and this is a couple of thousand feet up into the atmosphere because we're using a radar to see these winds right now. So we don't see it at the surface, we see just above the surface, but that's what you're looking at here are winds 80, 90 miles an hour. And then when you have the rain on top of that, you have the very strong rain. What it does is it carries those very strong winds that are just above you down to the ground. So in these areas, you have these winds. You're more than likely seeing winds gusting right now over 50 miles an hour if you don't have a tornado. But we're seeing signs of rotation in this, so it's very likely you either have a tornado about to touch down or you have a tornado on the ground right now. basically between Lake Alfred, Auburndale, and Winter Haven, and moving to the northwest right now at 25 miles an hour. So as I zoom in, I'm going to look at where this is as far as the velocity is concerned, and then we're going to put a track on this to give you a bit of an idea. So if this is moving to the northwest at about 25 miles an hour, these are the areas that we're most concerned about as far as where this is heading to in the next, say, 45 minutes. So Kathleen, Foxtown, Polk City, you can see Auburndale, 8 minutes, essentially it's on top of you right now. Over towards Providence, 36 minutes if this holds together that long, which is certainly a possibility because we've seen the trend has been for these to be lasting very long periods of time. Sounds like we're getting yet another warning starting to come out right now. So we'll kind of go out a bit wider and see what is the new warning here that we have as we watch this one. We also have another one down in the Highlands County, and we've got yet more coming into portions of Highlands County. And at this point, it looks as if what they're doing is they're just filling in who in Highlands County does not have a warning.
Gosh, that is wild.
Because this has got to be about one of the most bizarre looking tornado warning boxes that you'll see. But it's basically who doesn't have a warning. We've got to fill in who doesn't have a warning, and that's essentially, it looks like, your newest warning, which that one goes until 3:30. Yes. Okay. So now we're getting reports of damaged homes in Lake Placid on Bell Tower Avenue. So this is right in. Here's Lake Placid. I'm not going to even pretend to know exactly where this is in Lake Placid. On a report of 10 homes in this area. So once again, this tells us, I mean, we've seen confirmed tornadoes moving through this area. So this is the spot that we're talking about, that yet again we have another tornado warning in this area. Now, just going down just to the south of Highlands County, this is what has prompted the latest tornado warning in Highlands. This is the extreme southeastern corner of Highlands County, and this is because we have a confirmed tornado once again just to the south, right there. You can see the rotation. This is a confirmed tornado in Glades County, and this is working its way on to the north, in the northwest rather, at about 20 to 30 miles an hour. So this will be working its way into that one, essentially the one portion of Highlands County that is not currently under a warning. And then we have the confirmation of damaged homes in Lake Placid. You have more rotations working their way through there as well. But that also tells us that these are some of the same rotations that have now worked their way all the way up towards Avon Park. You're seeing what doesn't necessarily look to be a rotation, but we're seeing signs of some really strong winds, say from Avon Park along 64 and just starting to work their way into southern Polk County. So, I mean, this is just continuing to be an extremely dangerous and serious situation with this band that's working its way through. The amount of energy we've seen in this one band has just simply been amazing.
Yeah, and you know, we saw this band when it was just off the coast, and we saw all of those potential cells for spin-ups, and we certainly were seeing that on radar, and we had a feeling that once these came on shore, we would just have a series of tornado warnings and tornadic storms with those rain bands, and that's certainly come to fruition here. We think about kind of all of that rotation as it comes on land, all that friction it creates, and we get just general that rotation, and with this just broad rotation with Hurricane Milton now about 200 miles or less away from us, we already have a lot of the dynamics in place, and these are some fast moving storms, and so they're able to spin up these, at this point, very powerful tornadoes that we've been seeing here a little bit closer to Tampa Bay and off to the east coast of the state, really on the other side of Alligator Alley, some very large tornadoes in those areas as well, and so very dangerous situation as we anticipate, you know, more of these to be able to unfold here as we're expecting more of these rain bands to kind of lift in from the south and southwest. So Jim continuing to kind of circle in on some of the areas of immediate concern with these latest warnings.
Just to kind of go back, this is the area near Lake Placid that we got the reports near Bell Tower Avenue. just kind of a broad brush. This is the area that we're looking at where we got the confirmation of, it sounds like 10 homes damaged by the tornado. So that was the one that worked its way through. What about, I'm losing track of time, to be honest with you.
It was right around 2 o'clock.
Yeah, so we're talking nearly an hour ago. I was going to guess about 30 minutes ago, but time is going by pretty quickly here. So you look at the current warnings that we have, and essentially we'll go ahead and we'll say anyone in Highlands County, you're under a warning right now, because I think there's to be technical, there's a little sliver of southwestern corner of Highlands County, but at this point, everybody's under warning in Highlands County. That extends up into southern Polk County, and I'm noticing right here, maybe it looks like something, it looks like maybe just, whoops, sorry about that, just to the south of Fort Meade. Starting to see, it looks like, the possibility of some rotation there as well as we look at that rotation. Yeah, there we go. Seeing a very strong sign of some rotation right there. So that is south of Fort Meade. Put this in the motion so we kind of get an idea of the motion of this. And so it does look like Fort Meade. This is basically heading right up in your direction. So we're going to be watching this. Technically, you're not under a warning. It's just to your south. So at this point, I mean, it doesn't mean a whole lot that it's only just to your south. I would consider yourself in the warning right now. Fort Meade, south of Bartow, Pembroke, south of there as well. Pembroke, go ahead and consider yourself in this warning as well, because this looks like this could be yet another tornado either forming or on the ground at this point in this location. I'm going to go out wide once again. Let's look up near Auburndale. This is the one that we were talking about just a few minutes ago. And yes, once again, still seeing signs of rotation with this storm as well. If you're not seeing a tornado on the ground because of the heavy rain, you certainly have extremely strong winds in this, because when you look at some of the winds just above the surface, we're close to 100 miles an hour, 96 miles an hour right now, just to the north of Auburndale. Yes, that's just above the surface, but you have that torrential rain which carries that momentum of all that wind right down to the ground. So this is going to cause damage in this area, whether it's straight line winds or whether it's an actual tornado on the ground. Who cares at this point?
Yeah, and as we're talking about the wind threat, moving forward, we are going to be dealing with these very damaging wind gusts that continue to move through, especially with these stronger rain bands. I mean, you look at how heavy the rain is coming down for these areas. All of these areas that are currently under these tornado warnings, I mean, we're talking very heavy rain, so rain-wrapped tornado activity as well. And then we're looking at the potential for these wind gusts, upwards of 100 miles per hour as we get closer and closer to that landfall. And of course, with that, we're already seeing those rain totals start to add up here. And we're expecting, some pretty high rain totals when it's all said and done. But you look at that, already just outside of downtown St. Pete, nearly 5 inches of rainfall, 2-3 inches really area wide as we get into parts of Sarasota, Manatee County, and even inland, and in some of those spots where we've seen some of these kind of tornado-warmed storms go roll through right around the Sebring area. Looks like 2.5 inches there. Fort Meade, just outside you, 2.5 down to 3 in the Wauchula area as well. So yes, the rain is going to be a concern, and you can see all that heavy rain just off the coast there, as that's already been kind of coming down, and we're seeing more of these winds kind of bumping up to our coast. And so I'm going to continue to watch for these conditions to worsen here through the rest of this afternoon, this evening especially. As we look at Sky Tower radar, we can really see all of that activity, all of these heavy rain bands lifting from south to north, and so heavy rain coming down, but particularly in this kind of band from Polk County right on through parts of Avon Park down to Sebring. I mean, those rainfall rates look pretty intense to me, and so we're going to continue to see those 2- and 3-inch totals that we've already seen come down on the ground really stack up pretty quickly. There, it looks like we've switched over to our actual rainfall rates. 7.5 inches per hour. I mean, that's incredible. 6 inches per hour. These are some of the rain bands that we're talking about when we're talking about the potential for these isolated rainfall totals when this event is all said and done to be well over a foot. And it's
it's bands like this that are dropping 6-7 inches of rain per hour that are going to be some of the problem areas moving forward.
This is going to cause very quick flooding in these areas because, no, it doesn't rain at that rate in this spot for an hour, but it's there for 15 minutes. And just the amount of rain that you're going to pick up, I mean, you're going to pick up an inch or two of rain in 15 minutes. And even for Florida, that's a lot of rain for us to pick up in that short amount of time. So you're going to start to see, I think, some substantial flooding with this as well over the next several hours as well. So we just continue to watch each one of these areas. Southern Polk County, watching this area moving into, now it looks like moving just to the north and west of Auburndale, basically right over the Polk Parkway. We're seeing that's one area that we've been watching. I'm going to go ahead and circle this area right here. So that one looks like it's continuing to work its way onto the north and the west, go out wide once again, and then you look down into essentially all of Highlands County. So we're going to continue to watch each one of these areas. We're going to take a quick little break here, and we're going to be back with obviously much more as we continue.
Welcome back, everyone. Conditions are worsening as the hurricane approaches.
In St. Petersburg, flooding could force the city to shut down some sewer facilities. Let's head to Fox 13's Kaylee Tracy, who is live at St. Pete near the pier with the very latest out there. Kaylee, how are the conditions?
Hey, since we talked to you guys last, conditions have certainly deteriorated. We are down on Docks Ford. If you've been in this area, it's close to the pier. You can see see the white caps already out here, the pier in the distance, and St. Pete PD says they've already seen flooding across the city. City officials say, they told us earlier that we would expect to feel the most significant impacts this afternoon and those hurricane force winds around midnight. And they say, do not let your guard down.
Please remember, St. Pete remains in the cone of uncertainty. That means we're still in the danger zone to receive the eye of the storm. I hear the sighs of relief when we see those small jogs south. Don't let your guard down. Again, we are expecting impacts, direct impacts from this storm. While miles matter, we remain a short distance from the projected path of the eye of that storm.
And the city expects to shut down the northeast and southwest sewer treatment facilities to keep operators out of those sites safe who are operating them currently. They'll close those sites if 5 to 7 feet of water get onto the sites or if the winds get unsafe for those operators and they have to evacuate them. They will let you know beforehand if that decision is made. Officials are urging affected residents, if that does happen, not to flush the toilets, shower, or do laundry. City officials say they hope to get things back up and running 24 hours after it's safe to come back to that plant, but they say it could take longer. They also mentioned services like water, sewer, and electric overall. It could be out for days and possibly weeks. It all depends on what we see from this storm, but just as of right now, you can see the conditions have deteriorated just in the hour and a half since we talked to you guys last. Back to you.
Yeah, it is already looking pretty rough out there. All right, Kaylee Tracy live at the St. Pete Pier. Kaylee, thank you.
All right, we're going to go back to Jim and Valerie. And so far, the story of Milton has been an outbreak of tornadoes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're continuing to watch that here very closely on Sky Tower radar. We were just looking at that 3 o'clock advisory that dropped in. And we'll get to that in just a second. But let's show you what we're tracking out there on Sky Tower. You can see this really just distinct line of thunderstorms and rain bands that are causing really a tornadic outbreak that extends across so many counties. We're going to kind of circle in this area here. You can very clearly see the wrapping of those bands that are coming on shore and just the line of tornado warnings that are coming with them. So really quite incredible as we are tracking just these storms that have been able to sustain not just tornadoes, but very large, dangerous and damaging tornadoes. We just got reports of a tornado that touched down near Fantasy of Flight in Polk County. We know that about 10 homes were damaged from that storm that we were just tracking near Lake Placid. And so we're going to continue to keep a very close eye on these storms as we still have several tornado warnings in effect, and we're switching over to our storm winds. That's where we kind of take a closer look at the velocity levels that are happening closer to the ground. So we're looking for those signs of rotation here, and it looks like this is one of the areas right outside of Lakeland, Eaton Park and Galloway, Auburndale areas. Some of those spots are kind of right where we're watching for the potential of some of that rotation detector. You can see that where we're kind of highlighting that green color there. And so these are the areas that we're keeping a close eye on. We do know that kind of generally just to the south of here, we've got a whole cluster of, tornadic activity, these thunderstorms that have been producing these spin-ups. And so these are all kind of lifting from south to north. And so we're highlighting these areas that are potentially in line to see this activity moving in, to see these warnings possibly extend further north, because that's basically what we've seen as we've been kind of moving forward over the last couple of hours. There we're kind of focusing in right to the east of Fort Meade and kind of right across, it looks like 98 and outside the frost-proof area. That's another spot where we're seeing some rotation detector, some of that debris indication, I guess you would say, on our radar there, where we're seeing those bright greens, those bright red colors.
Yeah, we just continue to see all these areas right now, right between Fort Meade and Frostproof. That's an indication of a very strong rotation in this area as we flip over and you look at the winds in this, and you're seeing that just in the velocity data here, where you're seeing it has just crossed over Fort Meade. Every one of these are moving to the north or the northwest at about 25 to 30 miles an hour, and it's just that same band that essentially all morning has shown rotation after rotation. Here's another one that's worked its way into extreme eastern and southeastern Highlands County. So this is well to the south and east of Sebring right now. This is working its way up towards 98. Not a whole lot of population in that area, but it is yet another area that we're watching very closely. And then we flip back over and just look at that more traditional, that reflectivity, where we're looking at all the rain, and you can see just how much of this. And so on top of all this, we're really now starting to accumulate so much more of that rain coming down. Now, go out a little wider here, and over here is where we actually have the eye. Now, the eye is located, if we go right to the center of that, back towards Sarasota, we're now about 85 miles off the coast. And I want to go out just a little bit wider on this, and we'll back up the time here for about an hour and just kind of loop through this to see what kind of movement we've got with this. And it just continues on that same track. One of the things we'll be watching for as we go through the afternoon is just to see if we have any sort of indication of any wobbles with this. We go back in time a little bit further with this, and what you're looking at is, again, a pretty steady, straight path with this. But quite often, you see these wobbles. We like to think when we draw these lines on here on a forecast track that they move from point A to point B. Well, that's just not the way it works. They wobble and they weave along, so it's not really a complete straight path with these. And so as we go through to later on today and into tonight, any wobble that we do see, that can really spell a big difference for exactly who is affected by this as we go through this evening. Now, it does look like maybe we've just gotten yet another warning here as I look at this popping up here. It looks like right there. I'm going to go ahead and stop the radar. And let's take a quick look at this to see if we've got yet another warning. This goes till 3:30. This is let's look at some of the winds inside of this. And I think what we're just looking at is just more of the same in these areas, right along 98 and pushing up towards Bartow and Eagle Lake. We do see what looks like definite rotation, or a pretty good sign. It looks like maybe just on that western side of this warning as well, an area that we're going to continue to watch as well. So if you are in Mulberry, if you're in Bartow, if you're over towards Lake Wales, or maybe just to the little bit of the west of Lake Wales, and then back towards Eagle Lake, these are the areas right now I think you probably want to take cover. You want to be in that safe location as well. We've seen definitely some signs of some rotation. We had some in and around the Auburndale area. You are now out of your warning up towards Auburndale, in and around into the east of Lakeland. That does look like that has weakened. That warning has now expired for that area. So right now we have 2 active warnings in the area, one into central and southern Polk County, extending down towards Sebring, and then that other one in extreme eastern and southeastern corner of Highlands County. You look at the radar, again, just absolutely amazing to see the number of warnings across the area, that we just continue to see each one of these bands. And the other thing that you notice is you're seeing more and more that southern side of the storm that is getting eroded away. And so that's something that we've been talking about, that we've noted would happen with this. But we're also seeing so much of that weather on that northern side of the storm. And that's going to continue to be more of an issue here as we go through the rest of today. Now, again, circling back and talking about that 3 o'clock advisory, right now you're seeing maybe ever so slightly slowing down to the northeast at 16 miles an hour. The winds have been steadily but slowly coming down. Early this morning, 6 o'clock hour, these winds were still 160 miles an hour. This is still a Category 4. So it's going to weaken some more. More than likely, it's going to weaken some more. But this is still going to be a very powerful hurricane. We're still going to see that storm surge, even with the weakening. That storm surge, that doesn't change. It's just at this point, it's a matter of who exactly ends up getting the worst of that storm surge. And that is going to be from the center of where this moves on shore into the right, or in this case, to the south of this. So if it takes a track like this, to in large part, it will help to spare portions of Tampa Bay. Now, there's still going to be some storm surge that works its way in, and the way the winds are, it will still cause some significant flooding in some areas, but this could at least alleviate that worst case scenario of what we've been fearing across Tampa Bay. But us escaping it across Tampa Bay also means some of our neighbors just to our south, down into Manatee and Sarasota, they are taking the full brunt of this as we go through this evening. Also notice this track as it moves its way across the state and pushing over onto the other side of the state. Even by tomorrow morning, we're still talking about 85-mile-an-hour winds across the state, Category 1, as it exits out into the Atlantic. So this is a storm that is going to cause widespread destruction, devastation, power outages across the entire central portion of the state. Now, you look at that dry air, that continues to wrap into this system. That's been the two things that we have talked about with this, is the dry air and the wind shear. And to talk more about some of the threats and what we're going to see throughout the rest of the afternoon, I want to pass this over to Valerie. Valerie?
Yeah, and you know, it is interesting, Jim, as we're seeing this tropical system start to interact with, say, these more northern types of energy. We've got this jet dripping in. We've got a cold front that's kind of across northern parts of Florida. And so as this tropical system is interacting with those areas, we are certainly seeing those signs of it eroding away at some of the key components there. And these are the reasons that we anticipate some further weakening on approach to landfall, which we are closing in on now. That is going to be later tonight into the early Thursday morning hours. And it's right where this storm comes on shore and right in that immediate area around it where the strongest winds are certainly going to be felt, upwards of that 110 mile per hour threshold. But then you look at how big of an area that we have, kind of this red color here that extends across into the Space Coast, Fort Pierce, Melbourne, Orlando areas. We are talking about some very damaging winds to be possible. 74, 110 miles per hour, and then we kind of see that shift even into parts of St. Augustine, up to 73 mile per hour gusts, and further down areas around Okeechobee, West Palm Beach. We're talking the potential for 58 to 73 mile per hour winds. And so certainly, especially in this part of the state, we're talking west central Florida, expecting some pretty widespread power outages. These type of winds are certainly going to be knocking down trees, limbs, and that's going to come with some pretty severe power outages, especially where this storm comes ashore and kind of takes that track across central parts of the area. So we're focusing in on our wind gust forecast. Right around the 10, 11 o'clock time frame, we start to get up in that threshold of 100 mile per hour winds for Sarasota, down to Venice in our inland spots. Look at Arcadia around Wauchula, Sebring, up to that 50, 60 mile per hour threshold. Clearwater gusting up to 70 miles per hour at that point in the night. And then right on into the early Thursday morning hours, we're really going to deal with those winds coming quite quickly. 70, 80 mile per hour gusts up and down a lot of our coastal spots. And even as we get inland, still into the early Thursday morning hours, we're looking at the potential around where the storm is, say down to Polk County, some of our southern spots around Highlands, still dealing with those very strong wind gusts and the threshold up to 70 miles per hour at times. And then they kind of wind down as we head through the later hour mornings on Thursday. But as for our power outage index, this kind of just paints the picture. It picks up on those potential wind speed forecasts. And so as we get into the later night hours and these stronger winds continue to expand across our area, that's when we can kind of see the highlight for these power outages to start. And then as I kind of play this out, this is paused here 9:30 tonight, and then you can kind of see those traveling, expanding a bit more into some of the areas where we do expect the stronger winds that will be wrapping around the core of this storm. Here's our latest look at satellite imagery where you can really kind of see this defined area here, and then all of it kind of getting a little bit spread out, fanned out on the north side of that storm as it is interacting with those other features that I mentioned to you. That stronger shear and that drier air will continue to impact this storm, and it's going to be battling those environmental factors that are less favorable to sustain a tropical system, but it is still a very strong storm, and so it's just not going to be enough to knock it down for us to see lessening impacts. But here's our storm surge forecast, and it's important to remember These numbers on the north side, they will not be this high if the storm, say, comes ashore to the south of the area. So you can see this red color here. That's where we've started to shift our thinking as far as where the trends have been. It's a bad situation for areas around Siesta Key, Longboat Key, Almond Circle, right in the Sarasota area, and then kind of right on down to the mouth of Port Charlotte. Some of those areas furthermore into Fort Myers that were so damaged from Hurricane Ian. Those are some of the spots where with this storm shifting a little bit more to the south, it's more likely we see these numbers on the south side of this forecast play out as we are looking at really the worst of the storm surge. That's going to be along into the south of the storm. But all of the heavy rain, look at all of what's on the north side of the center of circulation. These are the spots where we're going to talk about flash flooding concerns to be a big deal, as we're talking 6 to 12 inches of rainfall. And in some cases, we're going to talk up to 18 inches of rain. And this is over a relatively short period of time. So the rain is going to be a big concern as well. You see this pink color here? That's basically the highest level we can get as far as an excessive rain outlook is concerned. So there's kind of a look at some of our impacts here around the area. We're going to be with you through it all. So we've got our continuous coverage ongoing. For now, I'm going to send it over to Haley and Linda.
Val, thank you. In Sarasota, evacuation shelters are beginning to fill up. Fruitville and Gulf Gate elementary schools are no longer options.
But if you need to get to safety, Philippi Shores Elementary School remains open. Now here's Fox 13's Kimberly Quizon at Gulf Gate in Sarasota.
The winds and the rain have been increasing as each hour passes here in Sarasota County. We're here in Gulf Gate, really close to Gulf Gate Drive and Bisham Road. And you can see right here, this is a creek, and the creek has started to overflow into the roadway. Now today we saw some cars, some trucks going through. The trucks aren't having that much of a hard time going through. Some of the cars, yes, but this is an area where we will continue to keep an eye on just for the flooding threat here. Want to introduce you to a neighbor in Gulf Gate, Leo here. Leo, you've lived here for about 7 years, you said. Have you ever seen this before?
Hi. Only once more I have seen it for Hurricane Debbie, but this is very unusual, and so it raises a little bit of concern because yesterday the level of the water was just a few inches, even this morning, and now it's risen up, I want to say, a good 7.5, 8 feet.
So today I know that you're in Zone B. Your house is a little higher up. Will you be kind of keeping an eye on this just to make sure that you don't need to leave the Gulf Gate area?
Oh yes, I am. This is one of my indicators. I come here every couple hours and take a look when the rain recedes a little bit and check on things.
And your sons often come over here and fish, and that's one of the things you just said it a couple seconds ago, but that level, normally it's a pretty low level here where it's not that high, but it's really significantly increased here.
Yes, it has. It definitely has. It's like I said, it's raising concerns and with the neighbors, and yeah, we're in the lookout for more weather.
Leo, thank you for talking to us. Stay safe today. But thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you. You guys too, be safe.
So here in Gulf Gate, it's funny, if you cross over, one section of Gulf Gate is in Zone C evacuation. The other side over here is in Zone B. So really, neighbors, the ones that have decided to stay, will be keeping an eye on this flooding here, just making sure that they are safe. There's still a couple hours to do so, but if people are going to leave, you're going to want to do it while it's still daylight, because this flooding hazard can sometimes be really hard to see as nightfall comes. For now, we're in Sarasota. Kimberly Quizon, Fox 13 News.
And for some of our counties, it's getting too dangerous, really, to travel because of all these tornado warnings. So you can find more storm coverage right in the palm of your hand on our Fox Local mobile app. It has the latest county updates, even forecast videos from our weather team, and you can also stream our live newscasts. It's free to download for our iPhone and Android phones, and it's great to have once the power goes out.
And another option, radio. Several local radio stations are carrying our newscasts. You can listen to our hurricane coverage on 102.5 The Bone, 97X, and 101.5 The Vibe.
Well, Pasco County preparing for Hurricane Milton and the possibility of huge storm surges along the coastline. Fox 13's Kylie Jones tells us a lot of people are forced to leave their homes gutted, and they're praying they don't flood again.
As the rain already starts to come down, storm surge flooding and flash flooding here in Pasco County continue to remain one of the main concerns. It's just a matter of how much this area will get, but we know 2 weeks ago with Hurricane Helene, these canals started rising and several feet of water came up to these homes in this area. This is Hudson, and you're looking at one of the canals in this area. A lot of homes, as you can see, along the coast, and you can also see mounds of debris that are still sitting outside homes. This has become an added stress and an added factor of danger when it comes to Milton. Now, not only are emergency officials saying people might have to worry about the concern over storm surge flooding and high winds, but emergency officials have said this week that all of this debris you see has the potential to become flying missiles. This debris was left by Hurricane Helene. Again, homes in this neighborhood had feet of flood water inside them after Helene. Now all of this you see has been sitting out on the street for about 2 weeks now. Picking up all of this debris has been one of the top priorities this week by county crews and private debris haulers and contractors. But emergency officials said on Tuesday, Helene left 3 months worth of debris. It's simply not possible to pick all of this up in just a couple of days' time. You can see on this street that debris was not gotten to in time. Although we were in some other parts of Pasco County in the Port Richey area, the debris appeared to have been collected off of several streets. That was one piece of solace one homeowner in that area had. He said he had 4 feet of water inside his home. You can see it's gutted. There's not even much to protect at this point. He locked up, evacuated, and is hoping for the best.
Sandbags ain't going to do nothing when the water's 4 feet high. You know, there's nothing you can prepare for. You have to make sure you're safe, your family is safe, and that's it. The material things, they're going. There's nothing in this house that's used. I can use nothing.
As the rain and the wind picks up, again, the concern over storm surge flooding and flash flooding still remains. It's just a matter of what level of that we could end up seeing in Pasco County. That's why emergency officials have urged people to heed the warnings and evacuate. You can see the rain coming down right now already and the wind starting to pick up, so time is really running out to do so. Reporting in Pasco County, Kylie Jones.
Thank you, Kylie. So here's a time-lapse video of the Anna Maria Pier from this morning for several hours. Again, this is time-lapse. It's not real time, but it does give you a sense of how really the sun never even came out. Rain and winds just all day long. A few birds on the dock, at times periods of heavy rain falling. And we show you this now because the camera has since stopped working, so we can't show you the real time what's going on.
Here's some time-lapse video from Sarasota. You can see how the weather deteriorated as the day went on as well. This is Plymouth Harbor in Sarasota. The sky darkens as rain bands pass through the area, and you can see the wind pick up with the palm trees blowing. Now, thankfully, no traffic on that bridge there.
Governor DeSantis is in Lake City this afternoon, where he just gave another update on the final preparations for the hurricane.
DeSantis thanked the crews who are preparing our communities for this hurricane while also helping with Helene recovery efforts.
We've had linemen come from all over the continental United States. California, people are coming. Others have come. So we will have over 50,000 linemen that are pre-staged in the state of Florida. As soon as the storm passes, they are going to go to work.
He also reminded Floridians that this is not just a threat to the Gulf Coast. Areas on the storm's path are susceptible to flooding, and they're also at risk of losing power. State officials will be working with the White House and FEMA to bring relief to Floridians affected by the storm. Now, the president also got an update on this afternoon on Hurricane Milton.
Biden is urging everyone to stay aware and take precautions.
To save lives and livelihoods, I want to emphasize a few things. First, many communities in Hurricane Milton's path do not have a moment to catch their breath between Helene and Milton. 2 historic storms in 2 weeks. I want to thank everyone who has followed local guidance to evacuate ahead of the landfall. I know it's really tough leaving behind your home, your belongings, everything you own. But I urge everyone in Hurricane Milton's path to follow all safety instructions as we head to the next 24 hours.
All right, keep it right here because Jim and Val and Paul currently monitoring all those tornado warnings and watches, and we're going to have more on that when we return.
This is a live look at Fox 13 Sky Tower radar. Please stand by. Our special storm coverage will resume in just a moment. You're watching Fox 13. This is a live look at Sky Tower radar. Please stand by. Our special storm coverage will resume in just a moment. This is a live look at Fox 13 Sky Tower radar. Please stand by. Our special storm coverage will resume in just a moment. You're watching Fox 13. This is a live look at Sky Tower radar. Please stand by. Our special storm coverage will resume in just a moment. This is a live look at Fox 13 Sky Tower radar. Please stand by. Our special storm coverage will resume in just a moment. You're watching Fox 13. This is a live look at Sky Tower radar. Please stand by. Our special storm coverage will resume in just a moment.
We are going to head back out to Bayshore Boulevard in Tampa. Often when a storm is approaching or here, that is one of the first areas where we do see those storm impacts.
Sure. Ariel Placencia is monitoring the situation out there for us. Ariel, right now, well, the weather's picking up, but is it flooding yet?
It's not flooding yet, but as you can tell, the wind and the rain absolutely picking up. You know, when I was here covering Hurricane Helene, the water was just crashing over the balustrades and completely flooding all of Bayshore Boulevard. We do not have that happening as of right now at this moment. I can tell you the road is absolutely wet. That rain is coming down. The wind is blowing, but all lanes are open to traffic, and we do have some vehicles coming through here driving at this hour. I should mention that Bayshore Boulevard and the surrounding area is part of Zone A, which is under a mandatory evacuation. So is Zone B in Hillsborough County. The concern here, of course, flooding. Flash flooding. So many of our roads expected to be overwhelmed by the amount of water. When you think about, we had Hurricane Helene, then we had some recent rain events. Now with what we're expecting with Milton, we are unfortunately going to see so many of our roads, likely Bayshore Boulevard, underwater later.
It's hard to imagine after what we just went through less than 2 weeks ago how saturated the grounds are. I mean, with any amount of rain at this point, it's going to run off. The grounds, the soils are just not going to be able to absorb any of that rain. So pretty instantly, I think we're going to see some flooding concerns. I mean, we're talking 6, 12, and in some cases 18 inches of rain, and this is over a 24-hour period. So this is going to be a quick event, but a lot of rain coming down through the Thursday afternoon time frame, say.
Yeah, and we're already seeing that rain coming down here again, Bayshore Boulevard in Tampa. Now, you know, flooding is a serious concern. High amounts of water flooding our streets and our communities. It's one of the many reasons why the city of Tampa is allowing residents to park in one of their 8 city garages. You know, during Hurricane Helene, we unfortunately saw several electric vehicle fires on Davis Islands. They don't want to see that again, so city officials are asking residents to park their cars on those higher levels. When we drove downtown, nobody was in those lower levels of parking garages. We saw all those cars up top, and we did see a number of electric vehicles, and so certainly hoping that people are staying safe out here and really not to travel on these roads, because ladies, they're really only going to get worse.
Yeah, we saw an awful lot of cars behind you, Ariel. I'm hoping maybe they're just on their way to TGH to work or something, but yeah, you're right, it's getting worse, and you stay safe too. A lot of people hunkering down, and hopefully you have found your safe place to ride out the storm. We're going to go now to Danielle McDonald, a dean of students at the University of South Florida. Can you hear us, Danielle?
I can.
Thanks for joining us, first of all, and tell us where you are and who you're with.
Sure. I am at a shelter at Jennings Middle School, and I've got about a little less than 200 students from all 3 campuses of the University of South Florida. We've also got students from the University of Tampa here. I've got 15 staff members and police and medical response units who have all left their homes to stay here with our students, and Jennings school administrators who are making sure that we are fed and that we have safe spaces to be.
And you can see even a few dogs there as well. Danielle, could you tell us, why did you decide to stay there with them?
It gives our students more comfort and our parents and families comfort to know that USF administrator is staying with the students. So my staff are here, and so this is where I need to be with them.
Can you describe what the shelter is like, what kind of resources you guys have there, and then the mood of everybody?
Sure. We have most of our students in their big gymnasium. And then we have some students from the other schools in classrooms in one of the other buildings. And then the staff, we have the cafeteria that the staff are using to feed our students, and they're also using it for their social time. They're watching movies or playing games or doing schoolwork, hopefully. And then in the gymnasium, it's more... I'm sorry?
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, how would you describe the group of students out there? Are they mainly, native Floridians, or do you have out-of-state students who've maybe never experienced something like this before?
It is mostly international students and a few out-of-state students. So they are definitely experiencing a hurricane for the first time and are having some nerves about it, but they have been in really great spirits and are, flowing with the challenges.
So Danielle, what are your words of wisdom or comfort to them, especially if you've lived in a foreign country and you've never been through a hurricane? This is a big one.
Well, we just talked about that our shelters are here for a reason, and that they are safe spaces for people who cannot reside in their homes and in our residence halls. And so the shelters are designated to be the safe spaces for them. And we have staff that are talking them through some of their fears. We have a therapy dog, Bailey, who is here to give lots of snuggles and kisses and help them feel better.
We know those animals certainly can help work out some of the nerves. And really, it doesn't matter whether you've lived here your whole life and you've experienced this or you're doing it for the first time. It's nerve-wracking for everyone, but it sure
we're
does help.
universally anxious right now.
Yeah, it helps to be together.
And resources, water, food, all of that is plentiful for you out there?
Yes, the school has been wonderful in providing food and resources. USF also sent a lot of food and resources with us as well. And so far, we have been able to have everything that we need.
Well, Danielle, we appreciate you giving us an update on everything, and we hope you all have a safe night together and we'll make it through to tomorrow. But
yes,
glad all the students are together.
Yes, we're going to make it through this together.
Thank you so much.
Let's check back now with Jim and Val. I know you guys have been busy over there monitoring a lot of action. What's the latest?
Yeah, I mean, we just continue to watch this. One small plus here is we don't have any current warnings right now. So there's no current tornado warnings across the entire viewing area. Now, that could quickly change, but as you look at the camera down at Plymouth Harbor, you're seeing it bouncing around, torrential rain. I mean, at times, from this vantage point, we've not even been able to see downtown. Now, you flip the camera around and you look. This is at Lido, and you're looking at the waves, and this is somewhat deja vu from just, less than 2 weeks ago with Helene. And you're seeing just the huge waves and that surge starting to develop along the coastline there. And unfortunately, conditions are just going to continue to deteriorate, work our way up the coastline. Clearwater Beach, you can see at times that water has certainly gone much higher up the beach. You can see that line, but right now, receding back a little bit. But this is going to continue to build as we go through the afternoon. You look real closely, and I was looking at this a few minutes ago. This is Bayshore Boulevard. And trust me, it's in there. You can see a little hint right there on the left-hand side of some of the condo buildings, but for the time being, everything looking okay as far as storm surge with this track. Further to the south, that is going to help the situation as far as that storm surge into Tampa Bay. Look at the winds right now. St. Petersburg sustained basically just a hair below tropical storm force. We'll go ahead and we'll call it tropical storm. 40 is tropical storm. So gusting to 48. Clearwater gusting to 44 here in Tampa. We're seeing our winds gusting currently to 37 miles an hour, and down in the Sarasota, your winds are gusting 43 miles an hour. All these winds, for the time being, they're pushing offshore. That's what's really helping the situation out. But Sky Tower radar right now, very active. And I wanted to take a moment to show you this, because this is the power outages, and those are starting to really accumulate at this point. You look into Hillsborough County, and we're at 9,500, 6,500 into Pinellas, down into Manatee. We're now at 8,000 out of power right now, and we just now have yet a new tornado warning. So just at the time we were excited about no tornado warnings, here we go yet again. And this is over into central Polk County. This is the area that we're looking at, and it seems familiar because we've seen a number of warnings over into that eastern portion and central portion of Polk County. This one goes until 4:30. This is a radar indicated tornado warning. Right now, this is a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located 8 miles to the north of Avon Park. This one is moving very fast. This one's moving to the north at 55 miles an hour. So this one is really caught up in this wind. And here's what we're looking at. As we look at the winds in this, there you see it. Looks like right now to the east of 27. I'm going to circle the area that we are looking at right down here. And so this is moving to the north at 55 miles an hour. So right now, this very moment, frost-proof, Hillcrest Heights, over towards Lake Wales, you need to be in your safe location. This is heading basically in your direction over towards Alcoma. Alcoma, I know you've had a number of warnings in just to the east of Lake Wales, but here we go again. We have another tornado right now. Radar indicated, no confirmation, but at this point we have to treat them the same, regardless of whether they're confirmed or not. And then this will work its way to the north. Now, you notice how large this warning is, and that is simply because this is moving so fast, moving to the north right now at 55 miles an hour. So you look at the rotation in this, and this is the area that we're excuse me, this is the area that we're looking at. It just now worked its way into Polk County, and that is the rotation right there. And that is working its way right towards frostproof. And with that speed at 55 miles an hour, this is going to be in frostproof probably in the next, say, 3, 4, 5 minutes. So it's basically, it's there right now. And then this will continue to race on towards the north and east as we continue to see the radar scanning this area. We're already seeing this a bit further to the north, up towards frostproof as well. Heading up towards Lake Wales, and this is just going to continue on that same basic track. Go out wide on this once again and look at just all the rain, and then we just continue to watch these very strong bands. And just as we go out wide, we have yet another warning. This one, it looks like filling in that hole into southeastern Polk County, and it does look like this is now for a cell that's working its way just to the east of frostproof. There we go. That one goes until 4:30 as well. And this is the area now working its way into, looks like, Highlands County, well east of Avon Park. But this is moving to the north as well, moving to the north at 20 miles an hour. So this one moving a bit slower. But again, so we've got one right around frostproof. We have another one that's working its way a bit further on towards the east, maybe not nearly as much population once you get right over into this corner, but certainly up over towards frostproof, over towards Hillcrest Heights, heading up towards Lake Wales. There's population in this area. You've got Bach Tower in here. You've got some communities right along 27 heading up to the north as well. Let's go out wide once again and look at just all the rain continuing to spread through these areas. And then as far as the rainfall mounts, we're just continuing to watch more of this piling up right along the coastline. And then just so much of this starting to spread inland as well into Sarasota. And then you see this moving over into our inland communities as well. So we do have a flash flood warning in many of these areas throughout the interior as well. I want to take the time here to talk about the track because winds still steadily slowing down with this, but still we're talking about a Category 4. It's amazing that we're happy to see this down to 130 because this has just been an absolutely historic hurricane. This morning we woke up, this was still at 160 miles an hour, so we're heading in the right direction, but still this is going to be a devastating blow to the coastline as we head into this evening. Still on track. Looking at just the motion of this, it still looks like it is heading in the same basic area. Been watching for any of these wobbles with this, and so far we haven't seen anything like this, but from that track line and also to the right, that is where we're going to see the maximum amount of that surge as it works its way through. Later on tonight and into tomorrow, this is pushing still across the state, 85-mile-an-hour winds. And then we have so much of this rain that is on that northern side of this as well. 6 to 12 inches of rain, and we're likely going to see some isolated areas of up to 18 inches of rain. I want to bring Valerie in to talk more about some of these impacts that we're going to continue to see as we head through the afternoon, Valerie.
Yeah, Jim, and I'm going to start by kind of playing out our past path that we have seen Hurricane Milton take. You could see where it emerged in the western Gulf of Mexico, and originally this was actually able to kind of tap into some tropical energy from the remnants of a storm that was over in the Pacific. And so overnight, we basically saw this area explode in the western Gulf. And this is the kind of path that it took. It meandered here very slowly, kind of dipped off to the south, and right as it was to the north of the Yucatan Peninsula, that's when we saw saw it explode to become a major Category 5 hurricane. And since then, that's when it started to take that curve. We've got that trough of low pressure, and that's basically started to pull this storm. You think of it like a magnet, and that's why it started to take that trend off to the north and east. And so all things have pretty much been on track with what we've been watching over the last couple of days. Now we zoom in on where it is now, and we're still seeing this storm a little bit off our coast to the south and west, maybe about 100, a little over 100 miles there. And so we're still talking about 130 mile per hour winds as this storm has slowed down just a slight bit, but still moving to the northeast about 16 miles per hour. That pressure at about 948 millibars at this point. And so still a very strong hurricane, but it is continuing to interact with some much less favorable conditions. The kind of maximum of its strength has already been accomplished when it was in that part of the Gulf. And as it continues to get closer to our state, we've got these very hostile upper winds and these drier air that the storm is going to continue to contend with through the rest of its kind of approach to making that landfall later on tonight. Despite that, it is still going to be bringing major impacts all across west and central Florida. It is a very unique storm in the path that it kind of directly crossed the Gulf of Mexico to be making landfall in these areas that we don't typically talk about, kind of a direct landfall from a storm crossing the Gulf of Mexico like that. And so as we talk about our probability for hurricane force winds, you can kind of see where we're painting the picture of where this storm might come on shore. And we do certainly expect right around that eye wall to be the most extreme and damaging winds and wind gusts. And so our latest trends have continued to kind of steer the course with this storm coming on shore, likely just south of Tampa Bay. Now, you know, of course, we continue to watch for any subtle changes because, as we've been saying, a slight nudge to the north puts Tampa Bay directly into the high threat for the storm surge, kind of funneling right into parts of Hillsborough and Tampa Bay areas. But all of the trends with where we're seeing that center of circulation now and the kind of course that it's been taking, we do expect this kind of trend to continue, where it likely comes on shore just south of Tampa Bay, puts the worst of the storm surge then to areas just to the south of where that landfall will occur. But look at these winds. This yellow color here, that's where we're talking 60 to 75 mile per hour winds, and that moves on shore and spreads across a huge chunk of the state. And then we have these concerns also on the East Coast, because once this emerges back as still a strong category, or strong hurricane rather, we get that onshore push. We've got all of those wave heights picking up. And so this is not just a concern close to where this makes landfall, but the winds are going to be far reaching as this really crosses the base of the peninsula. So as far as when the worst of the winds will start, it looks like right around that 6 o'clock time frame, then right on through 11 o'clock. That's when we're approaching this storm to be making landfall, which we're still eyeing really the late night, early Thursday morning hours. But you could see those winds where we get close to up to 100 miles per hour right around Sarasota, down onto Venice, our inland spots dealing with those 60, 70 mile per hour gusts, and right on through the early Thursday morning hours, these winds will be whipping. We'll start to see a change in the direction of the winds, of course, once the storm starts to be crossing the state. You can see on the backside of this, we've kind of got a different amount of wind flow. So just depending on where you're at, exactly where we'll see the direction of those winds. But it's late tonight where we get that onshore push. And so our storm surge issues will really start to pick up as we get closer to landfall and after, once that center kind of moves onshore. So all of these heavy rain bands, we're already dealing with them, and these continue to lift south to north. So through the rest of tonight, it's really northern spots. So even though we're on the north side of where we're talking about a potential landfall, that puts us in line to be dealing with all of the heaviest rain. This storm kind of a little bit lopsided here. We're going to have all of the heavy rain concerns on the north side of the storm, but then the storm surge is going to be along into the south of that storm center. And then right on through Thursday morning, we start to see conditions improve as this likely takes that jog off the East Coast by the late morning hours. And so conditions improve through the day tomorrow. Let's go ahead and talk about the storm surge potential. With that trend kind of pushing further south,
It's areas around Manatee, Sarasota counties that we are very concerned about. You can kind of see the legend up here. We've got this orange color. We're talking 9 feet of inundation and around 6 feet with this yellow color. So some threatened areas, Home Beach down to Bradenton Beach, Cortez, right on through Bayshore Gardens. All of these areas close to the coast have a very high chance of these extreme storm surge values. Lido Key, you can see they're kind of in this threshold here, 6 to 9 feet, right on down to areas around kind of Longboat, Lido Key, Armand Circle, and then right on into Siesta Key. You can see a lot of Siesta Key kind of up to this orange color, up to 9 feet. And then furthermore, as we get down south into areas around Osprey and say around Venice, Inglewood, we will have some concerns about these areas. So if it's not Tampa Bay, it is going to be our neighbors just to the south. And so this storm is going to be bringing some impacts as far as the surge, also the wind. Jim already mentioned the power outages that we've seen coming through. And so overall, here's kind of a look at where we're anticipating the worst of the winds, but all of us here around the state are going to be seeing some sort of impact from Hurricane Milton.
Thanks, Valerie. Thanks, Jim. As of now, most of the major bridges are closed, including the Howard Franklin and the Sunshine Skyway.
Only the eastbound lanes of the Gandy are open to let any Pinellas traffic evacuate, and the same goes for the Courtney Campbell Causeway, where Fox 13's Genevieve Curtis joins us with this update.
Yeah, hey guys, it's Genevieve Curtis here. We are on the Courtney Campbell right now, where you can see they still have the eastbound lanes open, but what we know right now is that the westbound lanes of the Courtney Campbell are closed. You can see some people still using this as a way to get over the bridge, to get off of Pinellas County right now. We have seen some cars coming through. It hasn't been very many, so that's good that most people have already made their plan to get over the bridge and over the bay. But the bay right now is getting very choppy. The winds are picking up. They have closed, again, the westbound lanes of Courtney Campbell. We know that they've also closed the Howard Franklin Bridge. So this is one of the only ways now for people who are in Pinellas County, in Clearwater, in St. Pete, to get over closer to the mainland. And people are certainly still having that option this afternoon, but it won't be long before they also close the Courtney Campbell here. Both lanes are expected to close later this afternoon. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Genevieve. Manatee County still remains in the path of Hurricane Milton.
County officials tell us that that people need to evacuate, but the time really it's too serious and the time has passed now.
Where you are now is where you're going to be during the duration of Milton. We do not advise you to go anywhere at this time, as the conditions are rapidly getting worse. The Skyway Bridge is closed. EMS and fire are no longer responding to the islands. Bridges to the islands are also closed. More road closures are expected. We will do our best to update them as fast as possible. Please visit mymanatee.org/storm for those updates. Again, where you are now is where you will be during the duration of Milton.
County officials add that as of right now, there are no preemptive plans to disconnect power to any areas of the county.
They also say that levels at the Lake Manatee Dam have been lowered in anticipation for the heavy rain that is associated with Milton.
Some of our inland areas are already experiencing effects of Hurricane Milton.
And by the time it reaches Polk County tonight, everyone there will be feeling those hurricane-force winds. Fox 13's Carla Byron is in Polk with the latest.
Milton is expected to impact Polk County this evening with tropical storm force winds. Hurricane force winds are expected tonight, which may reach 70 to 90 miles per hour. The flood threat has actually increased significantly since yesterday. Rain totals of 6 to 18 inches are being forecasted. If your area has flooded in the past, assume it will flood again this time. There will be downed trees, which can damage homes, as well as downed power lines. People will lose electricity. If you live in a manufactured home, officials say to try and seek shelter elsewhere. Stay with a friend or a member of your church, or if you have no other choice, stay at one of the 19 county designated emergency shelters, which can house 38,000 people total. So far, there are 2,800 people using them, and there are pet-friendly and special needs shelters as well.
There's flood-prone areas in every sector of this county. And people know where they are in the flood zones. And people know up and down the Peace River and Itchnapakasassa Creek. And so there's no reason to think you can stay there and not be affected.
Here are a few key points to know about the shelters. Not all Polk County Public Schools are shelters, so check the full list of locations we have on our website. Cots are not provided, so bring pillows, sheets, and blankets. Lastly, meals are provided. However, you should bring foods to meet any special dietary requirements you have. And one major important thing that officials are trying to communicate is that injuries and fatalities, they actually occur not during the storm, but after the storm, when people come out of their homes to check the damage, and then they might accidentally step on a power line. So once this storm passes, stay in your homes and stay safe. In Lakeland, Carla Byron, Fox 13 News.
Carla, thank you. The city of Tampa is continuing to do some last-minute cleanup before Milton's arrival.
Fox 13's Kelly Cowan has that part of our coverage.
Many neighborhoods across the Bay Area still look like this one here in South Tampa, where you have piles of debris still lining the streets. Now, Tampa Mayor Jane Castor says that they are working hard and they're still at it, trying to pick up all of the loose debris. But unfortunately, she says they will not be able to clear all of it out before the storm, but they are still out there doing what they can before Milton makes landfall.
Our solid waste is still picking up that road debris. We're not going to be able to get, household debris. We're not going to be able to get to all of it, but they have picked up probably 70 to 80% of it. And just to put it in perspective, they have done in 2 weeks what normally takes 3 months or more to get done. So they are out there in this weather doing what they can all the way up to the last minute.
Many areas like this neighborhood in South Tampa, they have evacuated, but Mayor Castor says that if you have loose debris and you're able to, do your best to help secure it. Tie it down, move it to a shed, whatever you're able to do to make sure it does not become an airborne threat or get pushed by floodwaters in front of storm drains and only lead to an exacerbated problem. By this point, officials are also asking that we all refrain from excessive water use. That means short showers, hold off on laundry and washing the dishes. Anything we can do to reduce the strain on our sewer system is really going to help out when the rains pick up throughout the day as Milton approaches. In Tampa, Kelly Cowan reporting.
Boy, we do appreciate all of our city and county workers who have really been hustling.
Big job on their hands.
Yeah, roads are shut down. Most of the bridge is closed now. Stay with us.
Our continuing coverage of Hurricane Milton continues after a short break.
This is a live look at Fox 13 Sky Tower radar. Please stand by. Our special storm coverage will resume in just a moment. You're watching Fox 13. This is a live look at Sky Tower radar. Please stand by. Our special storm coverage will resume in just a moment. This is a live look at Fox 13 Sky Tower radar. Please stand by. Our special storm coverage will resume in just a moment. You're watching Fox 13. This is a live look at Sky Tower radar. Please stand by. Our special storm coverage will resume in just a moment. This is a live look at Fox 13 Sky Tower radar. Please stand by. Our special storm coverage will resume in just a moment. You're watching Fox 13. This is a live look at Sky Tower radar. Please stand by. Our special storm coverage will resume in just a moment.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we continue our coverage of Hurricane Milton, I'm Chris Cato.
And I'm Linda Hurtado, and we are continuing our coverage of Hurricane Milton. This storm so far has been really a story of tornadic activity.
A lot of impacts to our inland counties. We had over 70 tornado warnings in the past few hours. It has really been incredible. And we're also watching closely Sarasota County, which was battered so hard by Hurricane Helene.
Right. Fox 13's Kimberly Quizon is live there for us now. Kimberly, what can you tell us? What are you seeing?
Well, Linda, Chris, what we're seeing right now is just really some gusty conditions, but it's been raining on and off all day long since this morning. I want to just show you out here. This is actually my house. This is the Gulfgate golf course that has been shut down. You can see it gusts, and then there'll be a break, and then it'll gust some more. One of the things that people are really going to be looking at is just some of the damage that we're going to see. As you can see here, we have a pool cage. Several of the neighbors have screened in lanais. Of course, these are items that we're all expecting that will go up. I already started to see some of our screens, which it's not a huge deal. But just as those winds continue to increase, as Milton moves on to shore, these are some of the impacts that we'll be looking for. I want to show you some video right now. We took some video earlier about 2-3 hours ago of the Ringling Bridge in Sarasota. The good thing was we didn't see any cars exiting. So that means, talking to Sarasota Police Department, that a lot of people had heeded the warnings about getting off, about the possible even worse storm surge than what we saw with Helene. No one is allowed onto those barrier islands as of right now, but people are really just waiting to see what will happen right now. We spoke to a neighbor here in Gulfgate, Leo, who said we had already started to see some localized flooding here, not from the surge, but from the rain. And he said himself that he's only seen this one time in the past. Take a listen.
Only once before with Debbie, but this is very unusual. It really never really happens like this.
What's your concern as we kind of continue on with the hours here?
Well, high winds and flooding, of course, tornadoes. That's the main concern, but we still crossing fingers and hoping for the best.
And some of that flooding right there is from a creek along Gulfgate Drive in Bisham right there. Now that creek, he said that his kids go out there, they fish out there. They looked yesterday, the water level was way down at only a couple inches. Today when we were out there, it was up to 7 feet high. Again, that's just from rain. We haven't seen any of the surge or the high tide that we could possibly see pushing in from Siesta Key. So just keep in mind, not from the surge right now, just from the rain that we're seeing. Want to bring you back out here. You can see the gusts once more. You can just see the banana trees, the palm trees going with it. A lot of people are concerned about some of the oak trees that are around Sarasota, some of the bigger trees. Talking to some people, they did evacuate because not so concerned about the surge in certain parts, but for some of those larger trees where they may come down on people's homes, and you definitely don't want to be around if that happens. Linda, Chris, back to you.
All right, Kimberly, please on live for us there in Sarasota County. Thanks, Kim.
Let's get right now to Chief Meteorologist Paul Delgado. Paul.
Yeah, I'd say back in the weather office, hour or two, kind of going over the whole situation, guys. I appreciate you tuning in today. I'm here with Nash. We got you covered throughout the evening. As far as the storm goes, we've got multiple hazards that are underway. This is going to end up being one of the biggest tornado outbreaks from a tropical system on record in our state. This has been incredible today, and these are not the ones we usually see that are elevated and don't reach the ground. We had a big tornado down in Milton that moved across I-75. Big tornado in North Fort Myers, and multiple tornado warnings all the way up and down the spine of the state. As I said, one of the biggest tornado outbreaks on record from a tropical system. So we covered that. There will likely be additional warnings issued, but a lot of them could be up here and over here. So we'll watch it. We'll let you know. At the same time now, there's so much dynamics in the atmosphere. Get a little front in play. The hurricane is kind of transitioning from a pure tropical system to more of a kind of a system that has more winter characteristics, and sometimes that transition can bring additional energy into the storm. You can kind of see the eye. Well, here's the eye, and it looks like it's open to the south and southwest. And the weakening process that we talked about, when I woke up this morning very early, couple hours sleep, and checked the situation, it was still a Cat 5. And it was getting fairly close. But as expected, the environment near us just does not support a Category 5 hurricane. It's down to a Cat 3, maybe Cat 2, Cat 3 at landfall. That is the diameter of the eye. And look at the heavy rain. So we're talking freshwater flooding, and some of the rainfall potential numbers may be 1 to 2 feet. 1 to 2 feet in areas near and around Tampa Bay as the hurricane moves on shore. Now, a lot of you watching me right now going, okay, Paul, tell me about the landfall point. And I've been just kind of doing what I said I would last night, doing a little point to where the eye is, and then an hour later, another point. In fact, Nash, can we do that? Can you go back? So the way we can, is there a way you can put X's maybe on the center point?
How about that?
That's good. Yeah, and so we know that hurricanes, as they move, they don't move in a straight line just because of how they're circulating. So they kind of pivot. They wobble back and forth. Now, when you see this line here, this is the official forecast track that was put out at 11 o'clock this morning by the National Hurricane Center. When I look at this, I'm saying to myself, that's kind of tough to verify. I mean, it's going to have to take a pretty sharp right-hand turn, isn't it? And you kind of fall, and the trend has been for it to bend a little bit to the northeast, so it's not impossible, but I'm thinking probably something maybe a little bit north of that, maybe up towards getting into Tampa Bay. I'm really concerned about areas like southern Pinellas, and then getting out towards Egmont Key and Anna Maria and Holmes Beach. That's where, it's tiny, but that's where the core of the hurricane may first touch land, is right there. That's where the weather's really bad. That can cause not only the surge, but some wind damage. The good news is, we'll see what the Hurricane Center thinks about this, because an update's coming up at 5 o'clock, but I think it's tough to expect this turn. The European model, by the way, ends up in Tampa Bay. Other models are all around Tampa Bay, and we've said that all along, including last night. All the reliable models have been kind of here and here and here and here and here, and this is kind of how it's going to cluster, but a difference of 5, 10, 15 miles on the landfall point makes a big difference in your local weather. And we're still, I don't think, out of the woods yet as far as the big storm surge in Tampa Bay. It's going to be close. There'll be the water being pushed by the hurricane. The winds have been mainly east and northeast, but if the track is more over the bay, there'll be kind of fighting factors between the wind trying to go out, the water trying to come in. That's tough to predict how high the water level is going to be. We know north of us, the surge should not be too bad, but from the landfall point south, the number is going to be pretty high. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, the hurricane is weakening, but it brings so much momentum with it. And the core of the storm is still pretty much intact. It's going to be pretty rough. What time is it now? 4:09. Thinking landfall like maybe 8, 9, 10. 8 to 10 makes sense to me. And then the storm moves across the state and brings with it more rain and wind as it goes inland. So that is the center. Look at all this heavy rain all along I-75, all the way up, all the way over the Skyway. And this stuff's really, this is the type of rain, because you've got moisture coming up in the Caribbean. This is the type of rain where it rains literally as hard as it can rain. Kind of reminiscent of the rain that we had during Debbie. Helene, heavy rain, but Debbie was the big rain producer. This is bringing the whole assortment of tropical hazards, all of them, from tornadoes to very heavy rain to strong winds to storm surge flooding. And this hurricane's doing it all. And why is that? Because unlike Debbie and Helene that passed west of us, this is going to make landfall. And when you get a landfalling hurricane, you get all the hazards that hurricanes can produce. Let's jump ahead. Nash, where do you want to go next with this?
Let's go with winds.
Do some winds right now. I think this makes sense. Maybe this should belong more like this. These are wind gusts up to 110. There'll be rapid weakening as the storm moves onshore, and maybe, just maybe, the way it should be drawn is to kind of show where the core is. And again, this is one of those situations, again, when the hurricane's off the coastline and the Hurricane Center kind of draws some of this, they have to broad brush it because they don't know exactly where the center's going to be. So it's probably not going to be as large an area as we just showed you. Wind gusts now, St. Pete, 55, Clearwater, 44, Tampa, 31. As far as surge goes, the winds are all blowing offshore. That's good to see. But the problem is the hurricane's kind of moving this way, pushing water with it. So you get fighting factors. You've got the water wants to come in, and you get a strong wind trying to blow it out. And it's kind of a factor that's going to have to really be determined at the end by where the center goes. Just a reminder, south of the eye, the winds blow onshore, higher storm surge. North of the eye, winds blow offshore, much lower surge. So we'll be watching it. We got a couple more hours at least. We're going to watch this kind of live step by step. And I'm back again in a few minutes. Here's some rainfall. Let's do this real quick. And again, I think one thing I want to say before I throw it back to you guys is, you know, all the hazards are bad. This is going to be a big deal. We're really concerned about freshwater flooding. We learned during Debbie how impactful rain flooding can be. And this is all part of the equation. We may end up talking a lot more about rain flooding between now and tomorrow morning. Back to you guys.
All right, Paul, thank you. Well, all afternoon we've been showing you how conditions are worsening as Hurricane Milton approaches. And Fox 13's Kelly Tracy is live in St. Pete near the pier with the latest. What are conditions like out there now? Oh, I can tell the wind's picking up.
Hey, Linda. Yeah, you got that exactly right. Just in the last hour since we talked to you, the wind has picked up, the rain has picked up. You can take a look over my shoulder at the bay. It looks like the ocean over there with the white caps. And we've just seen them breaking against that seawall, even feeling it against the cement at times. And St. Pete PD says that they've seen flooding across the entire city. They're urging you to please stay off the roads because these conditions are expected to deteriorate. As you just heard from Paul, officials say that we will see those hurricane force winds around midnight. And a note, city officials here, they expect to have to shut down the northeast and southwest sewer treatment facilities to keep operators of those sites safe. That will happen if 5 to 7 feet of water get onto those sites or if the winds are unsafe and they have to evacuate those crews. Officials are urging affected residents, if that happens, do not flush the toilets, shower, or do laundry for a period of time. That will put strain on the water system. You will be notified if that does happen, though. City officials, they say they're hoping to have that back up and running within 24 hours, but with a lot of unknowns with this storm, of course, it could take longer, and we do know they have state and federal resources in place to help get that back online after it is safe to get back to those facilities to do so. But just to reiterate, that has not been done yet. You will be notified if you are affected, if or when that does happen. But as far as conditions down here right now, we are at Dock Fords. That's pretty close to the pier if you're familiar with this area. Right now, as we said, the wind is picked up and those waves from the bay keep crashing over that seawall, guys. Back to you.
Dock Fords, a very popular restaurant. We wish everybody who's there right now well. Kaylee, thank you.
Well, you won't be getting over there to St. Pete where Kaylee is right now because, as expected, many of our bridges are now closed. That includes the Howard Franklin Bridge. As you can see in these images earlier from the FDOT camera there, no vehicles crossing now either direction. The Gandy Bridge and also closed in both directions. But as of now, just the westbound lanes of the Courtney Campbell are closed. So let me say that again. Gandy, all lanes. Courtney Campbell, just the westbound lanes, meaning that those who are east can still get west. I'm sorry, those who are west can still get east. You can still get over onto the mainland. And you can see there the officer blocking the lanes to the Courtney Campbell, the westbound lanes. No surprise, the Sunshine Skyway Bridge closed to traffic. It was the first bridge over Tampa Bay to close. Signage posted there to alert drivers. And, of course, it's typical for the Skyway to close when wind speeds reach 40 miles per hour.
Well, this story is going to make you shake your head. This morning, FHP troopers rescued a dog left tied to a pole by someone. Take a look. It was found on the shoulder of Interstate 75 near Bruce B. Downs Boulevard. As they approached, the dog barked because it was scared, but troopers reassured it that they were there to help. You can tell this dog is already submerged in floodwater up to its chest. We shouldn't have to say this, but FHP urges people, do not do this, no matter how much of a hurry you're in or for whatever reason.
That's awful. Look, some updated pictures here.
Yeah, so here's a dog in the back of the cruiser, and troopers tell us that he's receiving care. He went to the vet where he's been examined for his injuries, and he is perfectly fine and healthy. And after all of this is said and done, I know that this dog will find a loving home.
A better one than he had. That is terrible. Who does that? That's a nice, it looks like a bull terrier. Remember Spuds McKenzie?
Yeah,
from that blast from the past? Yeah.
And no fault of this dog.
Yeah,
you know?
that's crazy. Glad the troopers spotted him there.
Well, Fox 13's Jordan Bowen now. We're going to join him at Curtis Hickson in downtown Tampa with the latest on the conditions there.
We're here at Curtis Hickson Park in downtown Tampa, and take a look at the conditions here behind me. Heavy rain coming down in the park. You can see the buildings there in the background. Right now, we've just been experiencing the heavy rain. You can see some pockets of puddles starting to collect there on the grass. Several seagulls out there also taking in the rain. Perhaps they don't know what to do, what's going on. As our drive out here, we saw a few people out and about. We saw one guy on his motorbike. We've seen a couple homeless people taking refuge here under the covering here at the Children's Museum. But that's the latest on the conditions here. We know during Helene, there was several feet of water here. We'll see what happens with Milton. But right now, that's the latest here at Curtis Hickson Park in downtown Tampa. Reporting for Fox 13, Jordan Bowen.
All right, Jordan, thank you. Well, Governor Ron DeSantis is in Lake City this afternoon, where he just gave another update on the state's final preparations for this hurricane.
DeSantis reminded Floridians that this storm is not just a threat on the Gulf Coast.
It's not just about where it makes landfall. It's going to barrel across the state of Florida. It's going to exit on the east coast of Florida, and that also can produce some storm surge. So just make sure if you're on the east coast of Florida that you understand this is not just a west coast event. The major effect for surge will be on the west, but there is going to be impacts far inland and on the other coast in the state of Florida.
State officials will be working with the White House and FEMA to get relief to anyone who's affected by the storm as quickly as possible.
Tampa Mayor Jane Castor gave an update on Milton, and she says the biggest concern for the city is storm surge.
That storm surge is still the biggest issue that we're looking at. Any of you who went through Hurricane Helene, that was 4 to 6 feet, and that was more devastation than I've seen in my life. So Milton is bringing the possibility of bringing twice as much storm surge here, from 12 to 15 feet. That is something that is historical, not only for our community, but really for our nation.
Another concern for the city, the debris left over from Helene. Mayor Castor says solid waste crews were out earlier today trying to get as much as they can. In 2 weeks, they've been able to pick up 70 to 80% of all the debris left from Helene.
Yeah, that's the thing, this being a double whammy. Helene just coming 2 weeks ago. A lot of communities are like that with debris scattered everywhere. The town and country area in Hillsborough County also is covered by debris after many homes were flooded there.
Yeah, county crews tried hard to get as much picked up as they could before Milton's arrival.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm at the Baycrest Park neighborhood here in the Town and Country area. This is right off Memorial Highway. Now, this neighborhood is surrounded by canals, and as the afternoon leads into the evening, we're already seeing pooling in the streets. Some roads are already impassable, but fortunately, we are seeing people staying off the roads and sandbagging their homes and boarding up. But unfortunately, there is a lot of outstanding debris along the roadways, everything from dressers to furniture to appliances, you name it. So this is definitely a concern for these neighbors, but once again, they are definitely taking those precautions to protect their homes as much as possible. For now, I'm in Town and Country. Jennifer Baglis, Fox 13 News.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. We've got Paul Delgado back in with us now. Cat 3, still a major hurricane. Nothing really changes with that.
We'll tell you this morning, so I'll be honest, it's been tough to sleep. So I'm up a couple times a night. Feel like I'm just checking on a kid, because you get online and see how things are going. And it was still a Cat 5 this morning, and still a well-developed eye, but thankfully, as expected, right along our coast, just the whole atmosphere is different than it is out in the Gulf, more sheer, more dry air, which is good.
Right.
So the pressure's up. Pressure up's good. Winds falling a little bit, but still strong enough to give us, obviously, some big issues. The tornado setup today has been incredible. And these aren't the ones that, we talk a lot about never reaching the ground. There was a huge one.
The videos on social media are, there one cross I-75.
Down by Milton.
Yeah.
And there was one in North Fort Myers that did all kinds of damage. Wow. And what that shows, by the way, is we call it shear. There's so much energy rotating around the hurricane that ended up over our state, and that's what produces the tornado. That shows powerful hurricane.
Yeah, has that died down some?
I think what's going to happen too is the tornado threat may start slipping north up towards Ocala and Gainesville. So in the meantime, we talked about all the hazards are in play. Rain, got the wind, got the storm surge, got the tornadoes. Let's take a look what's going on. Got some cameras. Hopefully they'll be up for a while. Sometimes these cameras will struggle when the winds get really strong. Windy Hudson Beach. 72 degrees, east-northeast winds at 24. This is a look at the Manatee River, and I feel like I just did this for you, and I did, like 2 weeks ago, showing a rough Manatee River from Helene. Now we're dealing with Milton, 77 degrees. This is Plymouth Harbor, Lido Key, so this is looking out towards the Gulf. And some of the worst weather that's coming on shore now is coastal Manatee and Sarasota counties with some flooding underway. And downtown Tampa cam is expected is bouncing up and down. The power outage numbers continue to increase. No shocker. And then the Tampa cam is just all over the place with very heavy rain. Freshwater flooding. We talk a lot about the storm surge flooding, and we should. But freshwater flooding can be a big deal. And we learned that certainly from Debbie. And we will see, I think, areas of freshwater flooding this afternoon and tonight. Here's the center. The eye is open to the southwest. The hurricane moved away from its little spot in the Gulf. Do you remember the discussion I had? Like, if you're going to have a Cat 5 hurricane, everything has to work perfectly. Think of a hurricane as a big engine. And if something breaks in the engine, or just doesn't work right, the engine kind of starts struggling a little bit. Same thing with a hurricane. When it's a Cat 5 and it's producing winds of 175 and 180, everything has to be perfect to make that happen. When something goes wrong, or kind of right, the winds begin to drop and the pressure starts rising. And that's what's happening now, because it's feeling the effects of some dry air from the south and some shear. Look how heavy the rain is here. This is all up and down 75 and all in the areas along the coast. This is the same spot, unfortunately, that really struggled from Helene with the flooding. You're getting heavy rain now. We get some high water, too. You get landfall, if you take it here, and it kind of looks like it's going to go maybe up towards Holmes Beach or Bradenton Beach or Anna Maria, then maybe get a little south or in the bay. That kind of looks like the track to me as of right now. And I just kind of do little points and I move across. There'll be little wobbles along the way, but it's getting pretty close to the coast. So it's going to be someplace kind of in the zone, because the center's here. It's not going to be here, and it probably won't be here, and it's not going to be up in Pasco, so it's probably just going to be right in this zone, and a lot of that will determine how much coastal flooding we get in Siesta Key and up the road towards Holmes Beach and up the road into Anna Maria and then into Tampa Bay. We'll continue to watch that. As of 4 o'clock, just 100 miles southwest of us, and it's moving 17 miles an hour. So let's see, 17. So if you, maybe 5 hours. I think it's a little earlier than that. I think landfall could be as soon. It's like 8, 9, 10. Makes sense to me. Cat 3, and we'll wait to see how the Hurricane Center kind of changes or deals with that little shift. This is still a very powerful storm, no doubt about that. And then it slices across the state, and then it's east of our state by tomorrow evening. Cat 3 top winds will be about 125. The storm surge, this is all live data. And notice how some of the numbers here, some of the water levels are actually higher on the intracoastal side because the winds are still blowing from the east. But the winds begin to shift to the south and southwest depending on the track. Then the water begins to build up on the Gulf side. You can flood from the east side too on many of the intracoastal waterways. You can kind of see that as you move down towards Siesta Key. Really concerned about this area, I really am. This is a population. It's a spot that struggled during Helene. Don't want to see this happen again. But with a storm going north, I think this is a spot that may get some significant storm surge. May not be 15 feet, but if it's not that high, it's going to be pretty close. And you just know the kind of problems they'll have with water that high. And then as you head south, still very high water, all the way down into sections of Englewood and all the way down to Port Charlotte. The tides are high. Well, they were this morning. They're heading for low tonight, right around 10:58 in Clearwater. Anna Maria will have a low tide at 10:27 in the morning, and then at 3:37 in the morning, and then high tide at 6:51 a.m., 4:21 a.m. in Sarasota. Look at the winds now. Wind gusts in St. Pete at 63, and that's still with the eye or the core still pretty far offshore, so it'll be higher. And this is the zone here where the winds will probably gust over 100 in the next few hours. That's that core we talked about a lot. Areas away from the core will have 45, 60, gusts to 70, and then as you're watching us tonight, we'll follow that core, what's left of it, as it moves across the state. This is how it looks kind of visually. This should change on the 5 o'clock update, and I think it should. It seems like it's a little bit far south, but that's the 75-mile-an-hour plus winds, and then it kind of moves across the peninsula. It gets a little bit smaller and starts heading for the East Coast. A little update. I'll tell you one nice thing. I mean, the big scheme of things, I just checked the models ahead. Lower dew points. Wish we had lower dew points now, but this is how it's going to play into next week. A lot more coming up on Milton. Back to you guys.
All right, we're continuing to track the hurricane, and we will be back right after this. Officials expecting power to be out to potentially over 1 million people for an untold amount of time. What's the best way to stay safe? Fox 13's Evan Axelbank is live in Tampa now with some answers for us. Evan.
Yeah, first of all, I want to show you how things are doing out here. We're about 5 stories up in a parking garage here in downtown Tampa. Just take a look. Just over the side here, you can see the Hillsborough River coming down there, flowing south. Without a doubt, it's certainly a little bit higher than it normally is. We're, of course, waiting to see if we get that significant storm surge. And then just pan over here to the right a little bit. You can see here, take a look at that. That's the Cass Street Bridge, and you can see it is just an absolute ghost town here in downtown Tampa. Unbelievable. Incredible to see, and certainly that is an indication that people are heeding the warnings. We just spoke with officials from Florida Power and Light, which serves power and serves customers, about 500,000 of them in Manatee and Sarasota counties. They say they've got 50,000 line workers here and ready to go to restore power. First of all, when it comes to food, keep refrigerators and freezers closed for as long as possible. Obviously, if the power goes out, you should have as much non-perishable food as possible. Once it does go out, refrigerators only keep food cold for about 4 hours. Freezers do last a little bit longer, potentially 2 days. Now, having a cooler on hand with ice already filled up can be a real help. You should also have, of course, flashlights ready and also charge cell phone battery backups and have those ready to go once that power does turn out. Florida Power and Light says they have thousands of line workers ready to go and that some are already in the field working, reacting to outages in real time.
So the first thing is, remember that if the power is out in your home, we know. It is important for us to make sure that we can keep the power on your home as long as possible. If the power has been out on your home and you have damage, whether it's flooding damage, whether something has hit the electrical lines outside the house, something has hit your meter, so on, it will be very important for you to contact a licensed electrician to make sure your house is safe to receive power.
And when it comes to power, when it comes to being ready for the power to turn back on, appliances and other heavy electronics should be disconnected to avoid surges. Any food that rises to above 40 degrees should be thrown away. And also, of course, don't touch any generators or electrical equipment that is wet. Again, take a look. The rain is really coming down here in downtown Tampa right now. It even got harder over the last just couple of minutes that we've been standing here. Without a doubt, you can just see, I'm not sure how well it's coming across on screen, but no question the rain is coming in pretty hard. The wind, not yet. Not a lot of wind yet. I'm able to stand here. The rain is basically falling straight down, and we're not worried about any wind coming over us, at least right now. So we'll see how that changes over the next couple of days. I'm sorry, couple of hours. But again, look at that. Unbelievable. Downtown Tampa, ordinarily during rush hour here, it would be super busy right now, obviously. And right now, not a soul out here except us. Linda, Haley, back to you.
All right, Evan, a wealth of good information. Thanks so much.
And Evan, talking about those power outages, you know, one thing that will drive that is when these stronger winds come on shore. But we had so many tornadoes earlier that you look at the Duke Energy map, there's 1,000 out in Highlands County where there was some tornado activity earlier.
You were just tracking that a couple of hours ago, Jim.
Yeah, it was nonstop. I mean, at one point, we essentially had the entire county of Highlands County under a tornado warning. If not a tornado warning, it was a confirmed tornado warning. So, I mean, it's been a busy, 4 or 5 hours now with these warnings. And we also got a number of pictures and video, and just absolutely amazing. I mean, we're always cautioning don't run outside to try and get this, but a number of these actually came from FDOT cameras, so we're safe. But just to look at these videos, it's just absolutely amazing to see something like this as well. And I mean, it's just been on top of all the historic things that we're seeing with this, the tornado outbreak that we're dealing with this. This was that confirmed tornado, obviously. Palm Beach County. This looks somewhat like a wedge tornado. Wedge tornadoes are actually pretty rare, especially in a tropical system, because these are typically some of your most violent tornadoes. This looks more like what you would see in Oklahoma or Kansas, and this was near Alligator Alley over towards Miles City over into Palm Beach County. I mean, this one here Now, it's important to remember, you can't look at a tornado and say, hey, this is an EF1 or 2.
Right.
This is determined by when they do a survey and they see the damage. So tornadoes are ranked by the damage that they do. So you can't tell that until after the fact, but that one looks like a pretty strong, devastating tornado. The one plus side is it's obviously in a less populated area where you saw that.
Yeah, those wedge tornadoes, though, I don't remember seeing a whole lot of those in Florida.
Yeah, that's something, I mean, you don't see that in Florida very often. And to see this in a tropical system, because what we're used to seeing is more of those cone or those what we call rope tornadoes, or obviously we talk about the water spouts over the water, but here you go again, looking at this, and what you're seeing here, just the dropping of this whole mesocyclone. That's the whole base of the cloud is now dropping down and rotating here. And once again, when you have these wedge tornadoes, they're very fat tornadoes at the ground. And so that's what also makes these very dangerous and destructive as well, because you're covering so much more area on the ground that's dealing with that tornado. And because of that, and just because of the whole structure of these, they tend to be your most powerful ones. This looks more like your typical, this is what we would call a cone tornado. So a little bit more of a slender, but it starts to get a little wider right at the top. So that, again, those can be very strong as well, but that's a bit more what most people, when we talk about a tornado, that's what they think about. And here you see yet another example here, just how quickly these come in. And when they're right on top of you like this, what you're dealing with is, this is what we call a rain wrap. So there's a tornado in there, but there's just so much rain around it. And many of these tornadoes, earlier on when me and Dave were talking about these, then Valerie joined in, these are rain wrap. These are the ones where we're always trying to caution people. Everybody wants to go outside and try and get that video or see it for themselves, which is often just a huge mistake, because you can have a situation like this where you can't tell when it's actually on top of you until it's too late. So this is,
you can't see it.
No, you can't see anything here except for just the obvious. Everything starts flying, and at that point, if you're outside, it can be too late for you before you even realize it. And that's a perfect example of a rain wrap, which is essentially any tornado that is basically just shielded by all that water and rain.
Before we move on, I'm just so impressed earlier watching you with the technology that we have today. I mean, you can tell people the street that storm is approaching and give them time to find shelter in the bathroom or someplace in the home.
It really, I mean, the technology has just grown tremendously since I started in this business, started at Fox 13. I've been here almost 30 years, and when we went back, I mean, we couldn't do things like this. I mean, the resolution of the radar, but then to be able to zoom in right down to the street and look at all this stuff in real time, just because of the computing technology and the radar technology that we have right now, is just simply amazing. And you want to use these things to really hone down to the people that need to know it that moment, because we talk about this. At any moment, that information, that little tidbit that you give could save somebody's life, and that's what this is all about.
Hey, before we leave tornadoes real quick, do you foresee this continuing into the evening with these tornadoes?
I'll say right now we've got a nice lull here, which is something we've been waiting for. But as some of these other bands come through, there's certainly the possibility that we see more tornadoes. Do we see it at an extent like what we saw this afternoon? Probably not. But, at this point, as soon as you say something like that, something bad is going to happen. But I do expect that we'll see more tornadoes or tornado warnings as we go through the rest of this event throughout this evening, at least.
All right, Jim Weber. Thank you, Jim.
Sure.
Well, first responders will go to their safe place when conditions get worse.
Yeah, that means they can't come to you. So, the conditions have to improve. But we do want to tell you that one fire truck in Tampa was involved in a crash with a Tesla. Fox 13's Jordan Bowen was at the scene of that.
We're here at the scene of a crash involving a fire truck and a Tesla. Look here behind me. We're told that, according to Tampa police, this Tesla T-boned this fire truck. Kevin's going to show you here in a second. We're here at the intersection of Kennedy Boulevard and Florida Avenue here in downtown Tampa. Tampa police have been here for about the last 20 minutes or so, and according to an officer we spoke with, It appears that the driver of the red Tesla may have ran a red light and T-boned into the fire truck. We know there is a camera here at this intersection. Police say they're going to look at the footage to try and determine exactly what happened here, but obviously this is an example of what can happen when you're out and the conditions are like they are right now. This is just one of the incidents that we've come across, this crash here in downtown. We haven't seen a lot of cars out and about. We're told that the driver is expected to be okay. It was just minor injuries, we're told. She was taken in ambulance to a local hospital to be checked out. But as far as police say, the person who was driving this Tesla just has minor injuries. That's the very latest right now here in downtown Tampa. We'll go ahead and send it back to you guys.
Thank you. Well, that's another good reason not to be out on the road. You just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, emergency vehicles are trying to get to places where there are emergencies, so stay off the roads for now.
Speaking of our first responders in Pinellas County, they're standing by as Milton comes on land.
Fox 13's Brianna Arredondo joins us now from the Emergency Operations Center in Largo. Brianna, they're getting ready there. What are they doing as we see this storm get ever closer to our coastline?
Yeah, they're absolutely ready, Chris. This is the main staging area for this response to Milton. You can see behind me, everyone is just behind their computer screens. Right now, they're answering calls, passing along any information that they need to residents. And their main concerns for tonight are going to be storm surge for those coastal communities and also the winds. Now, we did step outside earlier today, and here's a look at what was the conditions outside of the Emergency Operations Center here. The rain was really coming down at that point, and also the winds were picking up when we were outside. Now, there will be a shelter-in-place alert that will be coming sometime later on this evening when it will no longer be safe for people to be outside. We're told county officials say that they saw a lot of people evacuating over the last couple of days, and that is exactly what they want to see. Their shelters are also filling up. I just got an update saying that there's about 11,000 people who are in those county shelters here, and also about 615 animals as well. They did have to open up 3 more shelters earlier in the day today because they really just wanted to have a spot for people to stay and shelter in place and be safe. But they do believe that people are taking this storm more seriously after, of course, just going through Helene. And we also spoke to a county spokesperson about the reports that they're getting in so far.
We're starting to get reports of street flooding, and one of the hazards and one of the dangers during a storm can just be travel. People going out in dangerous conditions.
Yeah, now, again, where we are, this building is in Largo. It houses the Sheriff's Office and Emergency Management, and during storms like this, they activate it. They have people here from a wide variety of agencies. They've got FWC that's here, Army is here, fire, police, Sheriff's Office, of course, utilities, FEMA, people from nonprofits who are going to need to respond to folks in that recovery and response phase as well. One thing that they did mention to me is later on tonight, before we get into that point where there's going to be those power outages and any potential cell service outages, they really want people to sign up for Alert Pinellas. You can do that through the county's website. You know, I Googled it really quick, and it was one of the first things that popped up for me. So that way, if anything happens, you're able to get those text alerts about what is going on here in the Pinellas County area. And for anyone, really, I mean, you can go to your county's website and sign up for those alerts, so you can get those alerts for wherever you are living in this community. Back to you.
All right, Brianna Arredondo live for us there in Largo, the Emergency Operations Center for Pinellas County.
Has this storm sped up? I thought at one point we thought it was going to be like an overnight storm, and now maybe
I think it's a little bit faster. I think the point where the beginning of the eye or eye wall touches land next couple of hours. We'll get kind of a new track and some thoughts from the Hurricane Center, but now it's really just a matter of kind of watching the radar and watching the wind speeds and just getting a sense. Now we do that thing we talk about, we nowcast, we don't forecast.
Right.
Wind speed's up to 60 right now in downtown St. Pete. The storm's still offshore, so it would make sense you get 80, 90, 100 coming up on the way. Let's take the radar, and I'll actually walk in front of it, and can you do that? Does that work? Can we do the radar full?
We can do anything for you.
Takes a while. Magic. The flood warnings are up in Manatee County. This area right here, and I'll kind of circle it, as far as flooding goes, it's going to be mainly in sections of northern Hillsborough, because anything north of the center, now that the storm is kind of becoming some winter characteristics to it. In a winter storm, all the weather's usually on the north and northeast side. That's kind of happening here, and mainly north of Hillsborough County and into Pasco County. Rainfall totals could be 1.5 feet as the storm kind of slides to the east. A combination of a tropical system, non-tropical system, and that combination will produce a lot of energy in the atmosphere. So even though it's not a pure tropical system, it can produce incredible amounts of rain and a lot of wind. And look out, I mean, right here, through Tampa and then through Pinellas and St. Pete, this whole zone is going to have a long-lasting stretch, maybe hours, of rainfall rates at like 3, 4, 5, 6 inches per hour. And it's not going to take long for the numbers to come up. And, you know, you're talking soon 10 inches and then 15. It's certainly a possibility. Now, inland areas, you'll see the rain begin to increase and the wind. For now, hasn't been a big problem. But as the center begins to drift inland, your winds will pick up as well. There's the center, kind of see it kind of approaching, and you know, when I kind of extrapolate, it's really, Nash, do me a favor, can you stop the radar on the last frame? And maybe if you could, yeah, that's exactly right. Just kind of back and maybe kind of circle, and maybe just kind of highlight this here. Okay, this is the kind of the northern edge of the eye wall. It's eroded to the south, and that is because dry air and shear has come into play as we expected. The way it played out in the eastern Gulf was pretty much spot on. But the leading edge here is the worst weather. This little circle, not a full circle, kind of a half circle. This is going to start bumping up, moving towards places like Bradenton Beach, Holmes Beach, Anna Maria, the mouth of Tampa Bay, and maybe into like St. Pete Beach, getting into some of that. Then it will probably slide east and start moving inland. But that's going to be the worst weather that the hurricane can provide. It's going to be right here. Can you stop it one more time? And then on the last frame, there you go. So it's this right here is going to end up sliding east-northeast. And the strongest winds that the hurricane has or is providing is here. In this section is the strongest winds. We got 60 here. There's no other place around that's going to have any stronger winds except right on that eye wall. I'm hoping, as far as the winds go, that there'll be continued weakening. We'll see if it's still a Cat 3 when the advisory comes up in about 5 or 10 minutes and see how they handle that. Put it back into motion, and everything looks on track as far as that is concerned. Thankfully, tornado warnings are taking a break, and I don't think there's any more of those coming up, at least in the short term. Maybe a few more later on tonight. But the freshwater flooding, which we talked about, that could be an issue. Looks like it's going to be an issue. I just saw a rainfall report from Manatee County, already 5 inches of rain. Flood warnings are up, and this system is going to continue to slide east-northeast. So stay in your safe spot. If you're in a well-built home, I think you're okay. And if you're ready for the water, that's good. And we'll get to the system together, and hopefully we'll get some better weather in a day or two. Back to you guys.
All right, Paul, thank you so much. So we're getting video from across the Bay Area showing how the hurricane is already affecting us.
Yeah, take a look here at this time lapse from Lido Beach in Sarasota. Now, luckily, we don't see anyone out there on the beach. Obviously, they shouldn't be behind those buildings there. But 30-second video here just kind of shows you how the waves get rougher, and as you can see them starting to white cap a little out there. Like you might see, out in the Pacific, they get bigger even as the video plays on. Maybe Atlantic more than Pacific, but you guys see what I mean there. It's just all that wind driving that water toward the shore, and that will get stronger as the hurricane gets closer to our coastline.
So let's take a look now at the St. Pete Pier, and we're going to show you how it looked this afternoon with winds whipping up the waves. Our reporter, Kaylee Tracy, was out at Dock Forge, which is near the pier. Palm trees blowing in the wind, but when we were going back and forth live to her, the wind was already picking up. You can see the high water there. So this is...
and here's a guy out for his afternoon jog. That's, wow.
That's dedication, I guess, yeah.
True Florida man right there. Let's hope he's in a safe place now. Okay, these aerials show the University of Tampa. You can see the rain there looking out towards the Hillsborough River. That is right over the Hillsborough River, actually. You see one of the bridges there in the distance, downtown Tampa. That's near where Evan Axelbank was earlier, just kind of remarking how eerie it is to see such a busy part of the city so quiet here on this Wednesday evening.
Tampa's Krause pumping station protected from tidal surge. They put up something they call a tiger dam all around the station. This photo came from the city, and what it does is it ensures that wastewater will continue to flow throughout our system during the storm, and the pump station should not have to shut down. Nobody wants that.
No, now which they had to deal with in St. Petersburg during Helene, and we heard the mayor saying earlier that's a very likely possibility again during this hurricane.
Yeah, so the rain bands of Milton are soaking Tampa Bay as we speak.
Yeah, this is going to be a big issue with the storm, is the freshwater flooding from all the rainfall. Fox 13's Genevieve Curtis gives us a look from Dunedin.
We are in downtown Dunedin, and you can see all of these local businesses. We've got a hot dog shop here, a hair salon, all boarded up. Everything along this main street is boarded up in downtown Dunedin. Take a look. I want you to see this store over here. It says, "We woof you." This is a neighborhood pet store and spa. So there's certainly people taking some of those messages put on boards with some positivity for the community. But this area did not have direct impacts from Helene. This is in evacuation zones B and C in this downtown Dunedin area. And so business owners now taking those precautions. They've got sandbags. They have got their boards up right now. But certainly this is in the path of Milton. Evacuation zones A, B, and C were called here in Pinellas County. And so this area is bracing for that storm when it makes landfall tonight. Certainly hoping for the best for all of these businesses that managed to make it through Helene. But of course tonight, when Milton makes landfall, it is going to be a lot more powerful, and this area is expected to see some of that storm surge that we are certainly hoping stays to the south.